What if the oldest prophecies of the Messiah were spoken long before Moses, long before David, even long before the birth of Israel as a nation? What if a man who lived in the ancient days before the flood itself looked into the future and saw visions of the Son of Man, the one who would bring both judgment and hope? And what if those prophecies were hidden, preserved only in forgotten manuscripts, waiting for a time when the world would listen again? These are not ordinary questions. They lead us into the mysterious story of Enoch, a man whose life has been described in the simplest yet most profound words: he walked with God. For centuries, that phrase has stirred hearts, inviting us to imagine a closeness with the divine so deep that death itself could not hold him. For Enoch was taken, lifted away, spared from the end that comes to all men. And yet, his journey did not end in silence. He left behind words filled with glimpses of heaven, secrets of creation, and prophecies of the one who would be called the Messiah. As you rest, imagine yourself listening to the soft rhythm of a voice telling a story that stretches back to the dawn of time. Picture a man standing on the edge of two worlds, one foot upon the earth, the other already brushing eternity. That man is Enoch. And in his visions, he saw a figure greater than all the kings of history, greater than angels themselves, the mysterious Son of Man. Why do these prophecies matter? Because they are among the earliest whispers of a promise that has shaped human history. They remind us that the story of redemption did not begin in Bethlehem alone, but was foreseen ages before, in a world that was still young when giants roamed the earth and angels walked among men. To hear Enoch is to step into that ancient world, to feel its silence, and to recognize that the hope of the Messiah has always been part of the plan. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the night sky in Enoch's time. No cities, no noise, no distractions. Only the stars burning bright above the wilderness, each one like a silent witness to the secrets of creation. Under that vast sky, Enoch listened. He listened to the voice of God, and in that listening, he was given visions that reached across the ages. His prophecies are not loud declarations shouted to nations, but gentle echoes meant for those who are willing to pause, to be still, and to hear. In those visions, he saw not only the glory of heaven, but also the coming of one who would be both judge and savior. A figure shining with light, seated upon a throne, surrounded by hosts of angels. This was the Son of Man, the one chosen before the foundation of the world, the one whose appearance would bring justice to the wicked and comfort to the righteous. Enoch's words about this figure are some of the most breathtaking in all of ancient writings, painting an image of the Messiah long before the prophets of Israel would echo the same hope. Think of it. Centuries before Isaiah spoke of a child to be born, before Daniel saw visions of the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven, Enoch had already glimpsed him. These early prophecies carry with them a weight of mystery, as if they were a hidden thread running quietly beneath the surface of history, waiting to be revealed at the appointed time. This is why Enoch's prophecies matter. They are not merely fragments of forgotten tradition. They are part of a larger story, one that shows us that the plan for redemption was always there, woven into creation itself. Listening to them is like finding the first pages of a book we thought was missing, pages that give depth and meaning to everything that follows. What if the oldest prophecies of the Messiah were spoken long before Moses, long before David, even long before the birth of Israel as a nation? What if a man who lived in the ancient days before the flood itself looked into the future and saw visions of the Son of Man, the one who would bring both judgment and hope? And what if those prophecies were hidden, preserved only in forgotten manuscripts, waiting for a time when the world would listen again? These are not ordinary questions. They lead us into the mysterious story of Enoch, a man whose life has been described in the simplest yet most profound words: he walked with God. For centuries, that phrase has stirred hearts, inviting us to imagine a closeness with the divine so deep that death itself could not hold him. For Enoch was taken, lifted away, spared from the end that comes to all men. And yet, his journey did not end in silence. He left behind words filled with glimpses of heaven, secrets of creation, and prophecies of the one who would be called the Messiah. As you rest, imagine yourself listening to the soft rhythm of a voice telling a story that stretches back to the dawn of time. Picture a man standing on the edge of two worlds, one foot upon the earth, the other already brushing eternity. That man is Enoch. And in his visions, he saw a figure greater than all the kings of history, greater than angels themselves, the mysterious Son of Man. Why do these prophecies matter? Because they are among the earliest whispers of a promise that has shaped human history. They remind us that the story of redemption did not begin in Bethlehem alone, but was foreseen ages before, in a world that was still young when giants roamed the earth and angels walked among men. To hear Enoch is to step into that ancient world, to feel its silence, and to recognize that the hope of the Messiah has always been part of the plan. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the night sky in Enoch's time. No cities, no noise, no distractions, only the stars burning bright above the wilderness, each one like a silent witness to the secrets of creation. Under that vast sky, Enoch listened. He listened to the voice of God, and in that listening, he was given visions that reached across the ages. His prophecies are not loud declarations shouted to nations, but gentle echoes meant for those who are willing to pause, to be still, and to hear. In those visions, he saw not only the glory of heaven, but also the coming of one who would be both judge and savior. A figure shining with light, seated upon a throne, surrounded by hosts of angels. This was the Son of Man, the one chosen before the foundation of the world, the one whose appearance would bring justice to the wicked and comfort to the righteous. Enoch's words about this figure are some of the most breathtaking in all of ancient writings, painting an image of the Messiah long before the prophets of Israel would echo the same hope. Think of it. Centuries before Isaiah spoke of a child to be born, before Daniel saw visions of the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven, Enoch had already glimpsed him. These early prophecies carry with them a weight of mystery, as if they were a hidden thread running quietly beneath the surface of history, waiting to be revealed at the appointed time. This is why Enoch's prophecies matter. They are not merely fragments of forgotten tradition. They are part of a larger story, one that shows us that the plan for redemption was always there, woven into creation itself. Listening to them is like finding the first pages of a book we thought was missing, pages that give depth and meaning to everything that follows. Yet, these writings would not find their place within the mainstream canon of Scripture. Why? The reasons are layered and complex. Some say it was because the visions were too strange, filled with descriptions of angels descending to earth, of giants born from forbidden unions, and of a cosmic battle between righteousness and corruption. Others believe that the words were too direct, too unsettling in their revelations of the Messiah long before the appointed time. The writings were preserved but not embraced by all. They became treasures hidden on the edges of tradition, whispered among the faithful, but guarded carefully against misuse. Still, their survival across centuries is itself a wonder. Copied and passed down, often in secret, the books attributed to Enoch made their way into the hands of different communities. In the highlands of Ethiopia, the words were cherished and preserved within the larger collection of sacred texts. In other lands, they lingered in fragments, waiting for rediscovery. And so it is that today we can still read them, still hear the voice of the man who walked with God, still feel the weight of the visions he carried. Enoch's mysterious life, then, is not simply a story of one man who escaped death. It is a thread that runs through history, weaving together questions of what it means to live close to God and what it means to see beyond the limits of human sight. To say he walked with God is to invite every listener to imagine the possibility of such closeness in their own life. His disappearance leaves us with a sense of wonder, reminding us that there are more ways into eternity than we can understand. And his writings, though set apart from the mainstream, remain as a witness, a quiet voice echoing from the ancient past, speaking of truths that still matter. To think of Enoch is to step into a quieter world, where the distance between heaven and earth feels thin. Imagine the stars overhead, the silence of the night broken only by the soft breath of wind through the trees. In that stillness, Enoch lived each day as though the unseen was just as real as the seen. And in the end, when his time on earth was complete, he did not fade into the shadows of death, but was gathered into light, into the presence of the God he had walked beside all his life. Even now, his story continues to stir imagination and faith. For those who listen, it opens a doorway into mysteries larger than themselves. A doorway that whispers of heaven, of hidden books, of prophecies that stretch across time, and of a man whose walk with God was so close that he was taken home without tasting the end. And in those whispers, we sense why his writings survived on the margins, why they were preserved despite resistance, and why they still speak to us today with a voice that refuses to be silenced. The ancient writings tell of a man lifted beyond the bounds of earth, a mortal carried into realms no ordinary eyes had ever seen. Enoch, the one who walked so closely with God, was granted not just communion on earth but entry into the dwelling places of heaven itself. His journeys above the sky were not merely dreams or passing glimpses, but vivid passages where the boundaries between human frailty and divine glory blurred. Imagine him rising upward, leaving behind the fields and rivers of the early world, carried into radiant halls where eternity unfolds. His ascent marked the beginning of revelations that would echo through ages, unveiling truths hidden from most of mankind. The accounts describe him guided by angelic hands, his steps lifted into chambers of light where the very foundations of the cosmos were revealed. The first encounters with these heavenly beings must have struck him with awe beyond words. They were not of flesh as he was, nor bound by the weight of dust and decay. Their faces shone like fire, their voices carried the harmony of countless waters, and their presence was both terrible and beautiful. Yet instead of fear alone, there was welcome, for Enoch had been chosen. They called him to witness what lay beyond the veil, to walk where few would ever tread. He was shown the first of many visions, the ordered beauty of creation from a vantage no man had known. He saw the places where the stars were set in their courses, each held in the hand of the Almighty. He saw the chambers of wind and rain, the storehouses of snow and thunder. He was led through spaces where the balance of the world was measured, where the seasons were appointed, where time itself was marked in secret patterns. These were not idle wonders, but lessons. The workings of the Creator laid bare for one who would speak them to future generations. Among the revelations, there was more than the grandeur of nature. There was judgment, the stern reminder that all things hidden would one day be brought to light. Enoch was shown the fate of the rebellious angels, those who abandoned their place and sought corruption upon the earth. He witnessed their downfall, their cries for mercy, and the decree of God against them. The angels who first guided him did not hide these things, but made them plain, for part of his journey was to see how evil would be answered and how justice would prevail. Yet it was not judgment alone that filled his visions. There was also hope, shining like a distant star. Among the mysteries revealed to him was a figure who stood apart from others, radiant, exalted, a chosen one who bore the weight of authority unlike any angel. This figure appeared as both human and divine, one destined to reign, one whose presence drew reverence even from the hosts of heaven. Enoch would later call him the Son of Man, a title simple yet profound, carrying the promise of a Savior who would come not only with power, but with mercy. The first glimpses of this figure must have stirred in Enoch a wonder beyond all else he had seen. The angels spoke of him as one hidden until the appointed time, reserved in glory until the day he would appear before the world. They spoke of his role in judgment, but also in deliverance, the one through whom creation would find its true rest. Enoch, caught between awe and trembling, beheld visions of this one seated upon a throne surrounded by countless angels, his face shining brighter than the sun. It was a vision not only of majesty, but of comfort, for it revealed that the story of mankind would not end in ruin, but in redemption. As he continued his journeys, Enoch was led through levels of heaven where the mysteries deepened. He passed fiery rivers, mountains of precious stone, and gardens where life never faded. He saw the tree of life, planted in a place beyond corruption, waiting for the day it would be given once more. He entered halls where angels sang unceasing praise, their voices weaving together in harmonies that seemed to stretch the very fabric of existence. And through it all, he felt the closeness of the one who had brought him there, the God he had walked with on earth, now unveiling his dwelling place above. The angels who guided him did more than show him sights. They explained the meaning of what he saw. They spoke of the order set into creation, of the rebellion that threatened it, and of the chosen one who would restore it. They revealed that history was not random but shaped by divine hand, moving toward a day when righteousness would be established forever. And though these truths were vast, Enoch was charged to remember them, to bring them back as testimony for those who had not seen. It is striking that a man of earth, one who had not tasted death, should be chosen for such visions. His very ascent was a sign that humanity was not forever cut off from heaven, that communion with God was possible in ways deeper than the world could imagine. Enoch's journeys were not for himself alone. They were entrusted to him for the sake of future generations, that they might know there is more to this life than what eyes can see. His writings became a window into eternity, a record of sights too great for mortal language, yet preserved for the faithful who longed for hope. Even as he returned from his journeys, carrying visions too weighty for ordinary men, the memory of what he had seen would remain with him. His eyes had looked upon the throne of glory. His ears had heard the voices of angels. His spirit had been lifted into realms where time and decay could not reach. And most of all, he had glimpsed the figure of the Son of Man, the promised one who would come in the fullness of time to bring justice and peace. That vision, above all, became the heartbeat of his testimony, echoing through every word he preserved for those yet to come. The writings preserved under the name of Enoch carry within them a section unlike any other, a portion known as the Book of Parables. Spanning chapters 37 through 71 of the first book of Enoch, these visions form a series of revelations that feel both intimate and cosmic in scope. They are called parables, yet they are not mere stories for entertainment or moral teaching. Instead, they are windows into realms of eternity, lifting the veil to reveal hidden truths about judgment, destiny, and a figure who stands at the very center of the divine plan. This portion of Enoch's writings became one of the most discussed and mysterious among scholars and seekers alike, for it contains imagery that bridges heaven and earth, the known and the unknown, the temporal and the eternal. Enoch describes being taken once again into visions, where he sees not only the affairs of men, but the counsels of heaven. These parables unfold like scenes of a great drama, with the fate of nations, the downfall of the wicked, and the restoration of the righteous, all bound together. But beyond these themes, a character begins to emerge, one who is unlike the angels, unlike Enoch himself, and unlike any figure introduced before. This is the one called the Son of Man. His appearance within the parables is quiet at first, almost like a shadow forming at the edge of sight. Yet, as the visions unfold, the figure grows clearer, more defined, until his presence commands the stage of heaven itself. The title, Son of Man, carries a weight that reaches beyond language. At its simplest, it seems to speak of humanity, of one who shares the nature of man. Yet in Enoch's visions, this Son of Man is no ordinary man. He appears before the throne of glory, seated in judgment, surrounded by hosts of angels who bow in reverence. His face shines like light, his words carry authority, and his very presence radiates holiness. How could one bearing the likeness of man hold such honor in the midst of heaven? It is this mystery that has stirred wonder for generations, for the title itself is humble, while the figure described is exalted beyond measure. In the parables, Enoch is shown that the Son of Man was chosen before the foundation of the world, hidden in the presence of the Most High until the appointed hour. His role is both terrible and beautiful. He is the judge of kings and rulers who set themselves against God, bringing them low with the breath of his mouth. Yet he is also the protector of the righteous, the one who lifts them from sorrow and grants them a place near the throne. His identity combines justice and mercy in ways that surpass human comprehension. To those who oppose the will of God, he is dread. To those who long for righteousness, he is hope. The parables weave together scenes where the Son of Man stands at the center of divine judgment. Thrones are set, books are opened, and the deeds of the mighty are laid bare. Kings who once seemed untouchable are cast down, their pride reduced to silence. The oppressed are vindicated, their tears remembered, their faith honored. And at the heart of it all is the Son of Man, the chosen one, seated upon a throne of glory. This is not merely an angel carrying out orders, but one entrusted with ultimate authority. His throne is eternal, his dominion unshakable, his name known to the angels and hidden from the proud. The mystery deepens when we consider how Enoch portrays him. This figure is not introduced as newly created, nor as one rising from among the angels. Instead, he is revealed as one who was always present, concealed until the time was right. His pre-existence stretches back before creation itself, resting in the presence of God. The parables describe him as the light of nations, as the hope of those who dwell in darkness, and as the one through whom all judgment will be rendered. This vision, written long before later prophecies of the Messiah became well known, bears an uncanny resemblance to the promises fulfilled in later ages. For Enoch, the revelation of the Son of Man must have been overwhelming. To be shown a being who looked like man yet carried the authority of heaven was to witness the blending of two worlds. It suggested that the destiny of mankind was not separation from God, but union, that heaven and earth would one day meet in the person of this chosen one. Such a vision would have been both comforting and unsettling, for it revealed a future in which every hidden thing would be brought to light, and every soul measured against the standard of divine righteousness. As the parables continue, the Son of Man is depicted not only as a judge, but as a shepherd. He gathers the righteous to himself, shielding them from harm, granting them peace that the earth had long denied. He is described as a fountain of life, a source of wisdom, and a guide for the weary. To see him is to glimpse the heart of God's mercy, flowing into creation through a figure who shares humanity yet transcends it. This dual image, judge and shepherd, ruler and protector, reveals why his title remains wrapped in mystery. To call him merely man is too little. To call him only divine seems to miss the purpose of his coming near. The book of parables closes with one final revelation of this figure. Enoch sees the Son of Man seated upon a throne beside the Ancient of Days, the Lord of Spirits. The angels sing, the righteous rejoice, and all creation seems to bow before the harmony of justice and mercy revealed in him. Here, the mystery reaches its height, for Enoch has been shown that the story of mankind does not end with destruction, but with restoration under the reign of this chosen one. The parables end not in despair, but in the vision of a world made whole through the presence of the Son of Man. The echoes of these visions would linger long after Enoch himself was gone. Though his writings did not find their way into every canon, they were preserved by those who recognized their depth. Within them, the Son of Man remained a mystery, a figure both hidden and revealed, awaiting the day when his identity would be made clear to the world. Those who read the parables could sense that they were standing at the threshold of something vast, the promise of a Savior, glimpsed in the visions of one who had walked with God and was shown the secrets of eternity. Before the first dawn ever broke across the silent void, before the stars were strung like jewels across the heavens, there was already one chosen, resting in the hidden counsel of God. The writings of Enoch whisper that the Messiah did not simply appear as a sudden answer to a broken world, nor did he come into being when men first cried for deliverance. Instead, he was present before the foundations of the earth, concealed in majesty, waiting for the appointed moment when the fullness of time would call him forth. This hidden pre-existence is not told in loud declarations, but in the gentle assurance that nothing in history was without design, that the redemption of mankind was planned in stillness long before the first breath of creation. The thought itself carries a quiet wonder. While humanity has always lived within the stream of time, bound by beginnings and endings, the Messiah is described as one whose life did not start in any earthly cradle. His existence flowed before rivers carved valleys and before mountains lifted their heads into the sky. He was with God, preserved in light, a secret treasure not yet revealed to creation. To Enoch, this was shown not as a philosophical puzzle but as a vision of calm certainty that history itself moved on a path already known, already guided, already infused with hope. The parables speak of this one being hidden with the Most High, reserved in silence until the moment came when his presence would be unveiled. The secrecy was not out of neglect, but purpose. Just as seeds lie buried in soil, unseen until their time of blossoming, so too the Messiah remained in the keeping of God, secure until the world was ready for his arrival. The angels knew of him, for they bowed in reverence when he was shown. The righteous longed for him, though they did not yet know his name. The wicked, in their pride, walked unaware that the very one who would judge them was already chosen from eternity. Enoch's vision of this pre-existence paints the Messiah as a figure who bridges eternity and time. On one hand, he is described with human language, a son of man, one like us, clothed in humility. On the other, he shines with divine glory, seated near the throne, radiating a light that no creature could bear alone. To be both hidden and eternal suggests a mystery deeper than the mind can fully grasp. Yet there is peace in knowing that this dual reality was no accident. God's plan was not an afterthought, not a hurried solution to human failure, but an intention held gently since before the first heartbeat of the world. In the visions, this hiddenness is depicted not as loneliness, but as serenity. The Messiah rests in the presence of God, untouched by corruption, unswayed by rebellion, awaiting his moment with patience that only eternity could teach. The calm beauty of divine pre-planning is found here, the assurance that nothing can rush what God has appointed, and nothing can delay it. The Messiah's concealment is not absence, but preparation, as if the universe itself was slowly ripening for his appearance. The angels who guided Enoch revealed that when the time was right, the hidden one would be made known. He would step forth not as a stranger to heaven, but as one already familiar, one who had dwelled in glory before the ages began. His unveiling would not be the creation of something new, but the revealing of what had always been there, like a sunrise long written into the horizon, finally breaking into view. To hear this must have filled Enoch with a sense of awe and quiet rest, for it meant that the destiny of mankind was not drifting in uncertainty, but rooted in eternity itself. There is a tenderness in the idea that the Messiah's existence was veiled for a time. While the world struggled with violence, injustice, and sorrow, God had already prepared the answer. The Hidden One was not far, though unseen. He was kept in the closest presence of the Almighty, shielded from the chaos below, like a flame guarded until the moment it must shine. The beauty of such a vision lies in its assurance. Humanity was never abandoned, even when it felt lost. The Savior's presence was certain, though his face remained unseen. Enoch's writings hint that this concealment gave the Messiah an aura of mystery, even among the heavenly hosts. The angels, radiant in their own light, still turned in reverence when he appeared in the visions. They recognized in him a role beyond their own, an authority that was eternal in origin and unshakable in its promise. It is a mystery that one bearing the likeness of man should exist before men themselves were formed. Yet in this mystery lies the key to hope, for it speaks of God's desire to unite himself with creation, not as a distant ruler only, but as one who would enter the frailty of human life to restore it from within. The calmness of this pre-planning contrasts with the turmoil of history. Empires rise and fall, kings rage and perish, but the Messiah waits in silence until his moment comes. His hiddenness reminds us that divine purpose is not hurried by human impatience. Just as stars take ages to burn their light across the sky, so too the appearance of the Savior was timed to perfection, neither early nor late. For Enoch, to glimpse this plan was to glimpse the steady hand of God, writing the story of redemption long before the world could read it. This vision offers more than awe, it offers rest. To know that the Messiah existed before creation is to know that the story of humanity has always been secure. The struggles of earth are real, but they do not erase the plan written in heaven. The Hidden One, preserved until his revealing, embodies the quiet assurance that even in chaos there is order. Even in sorrow, there is preparation for joy. The thought is not a thunderclap, but a gentle stream, flowing with the promise that what was begun before time will be brought to fulfillment in time. When Enoch returned from his heavenly journeys carrying these revelations, he must have known how fragile human language was compared to what he had seen. To describe eternity, to speak of one hidden before creation, is like trying to hold sunlight in the hand. Yet his testimony endures, giving us a glimpse of a plan too vast to comprehend fully, yet simple in its promise. From the very beginning, redemption was certain. The Messiah's pre-existence is not just a detail of doctrine, but a reassurance that humanity's hope rests on a foundation older than the stars, older than the earth itself, older even than time as we know it. From the visions given to Enoch, the Messiah appears not only as one hidden in eternity, but as the very light of hope for all who walk the path of righteousness. To the weary, his presence is described like the gentle rising of dawn after a long and restless night. Where darkness has settled heavy upon the world, he shines with brilliance that no shadow can overcome. This is not the light of fire that consumes or blinds, but the calm radiance of peace that steadies the trembling heart. In him, the righteous find assurance that their journey is not forgotten, and that their tears, though unseen by men, are gathered by heaven and answered with eternal comfort. The ancient text speaks of the Messiah as one who brings hope to the meek, those who bend beneath the weight of injustice yet refuse to abandon faith. To them, he is like a lamp burning steadily in a storm, guiding the lost across rough waters. His light is not harsh or fleeting, but enduring, shining with the certainty of eternity itself. It does not falter when winds rage or when nations crumble, for it is a light born from the very presence of God. Those who look upon it find themselves strengthened, not because their trials vanish, but because they are given vision beyond the immediate, a glimpse of what lies ahead in the eternal dwelling of peace. The imagery of light carries more than beauty. It carries intimacy. Enoch's visions suggest that this radiance touches not only the grand expanse of creation, but also the quiet lives of the faithful. A widow praying in silence, a laborer working under the sun, a child speaking a word of kindness. All are wrapped in the gentle glow of the Messiah's light. It is a light that stoops low to meet the meek where they are, to assure them that they are seen and valued. In a world where the proud often claim the stage, the Messiah turns his gaze toward the humble, lifting them into the warmth of his presence. This role as hope bringer is described not as a distant event, but as an ongoing truth. Even while he was still hidden with God before the fullness of time, the Messiah's light was already considered a promise for those who clung to righteousness. His unveiling would only make visible what was already true, that every act of faith, however small, carried a connection to him. For Enoch, this light was not symbolic alone, but real, shining through the heavens with a brilliance that comforted the souls of the just. He described it as an eternal beacon, the kind of light that does not grow dim, even when the stars themselves fade. The faithful who walk in this light do so not because they are strong, but because they are willing to trust. Enoch's account lingers on the meek and gentle of heart, those who have no weapons, no armies, no thrones, yet are lifted high in the presence of the Messiah. His radiance is their shield, not in the sense of earthly protection, but in the deeper way of anchoring their spirits against despair. Where others might crumble under grief, they rise, for they walk in the glow of one who has already overcome. His presence assures them that their sacrifices, their patience, and their tears are not forgotten, but carried forward into eternity. Light in these visions carries with it the promise of guidance. Just as a traveler follows the faint glow of a lamp through a dark forest, the righteous are led by the Messiah's brilliance toward peace. This light is not given to the arrogant who trust in their own strength, nor to the violent who impose fear, but to those who lean on faith. It shines most brightly on paths of humility, patience, and kindness, for these are the roads that lead into eternal rest. The meek, often overlooked by men, are honored in the radiance of the one chosen before creation. They are like fragile alvacels that nonetheless reflect his brilliance with purity unmatched by the proud. The angels who guided him did more than show him sights. They explained the meaning of what he saw. They spoke of the order set into creation, of the rebellion that threatened it, and of the chosen one who would restore it. They revealed that history was not random but shaped by divine hand, moving toward a day when righteousness would be established forever. And though these truths were vast, Enoch was charged to remember them, to bring them back as testimony for those who had not seen. It is striking that a man of earth, one who had not tasted death, should be chosen for such visions. His very ascent was a sign that humanity was not forever cut off from heaven, that communion with God was possible in ways deeper than the world could imagine. Enoch's journeys were not for himself alone. They were entrusted to him for the sake of future generations, that they might know there is more to this life than what eyes can see. His writings became a window into eternity, a record of sights too great for mortal language, yet preserved for the faithful who longed for hope. Even as he returned from his journeys, carrying visions too weighty for ordinary men, the memory of what he had seen would remain with him. His eyes had looked upon the throne of glory. His ears had heard the voices of angels. His spirit had been lifted into realms where time and decay could not reach. And most of all, he had glimpsed the figure of the Son of Man, the promised one who would come in the fullness of time to bring justice and peace. That vision, above all, became the heartbeat of his testimony, echoing through every word he preserved for those yet to come. The writings preserved under the name of Enoch carry within them a section unlike any other, a portion known as the Book of Parables. Spanning chapters 37 through 71 of the first book of Enoch, these visions form a series of revelations that feel both intimate and cosmic in scope. They are called parables, yet they are not mere stories for entertainment or moral teaching. Instead, they are windows into realms of eternity, lifting the veil to reveal hidden truths about judgment, destiny, and a figure who stands at the very center of the divine plan. This portion of Enoch's writings became one of the most discussed and mysterious among scholars and seekers alike, for it contains imagery that bridges heaven and earth, the known and the unknown, the temporal and the eternal. Enoch describes being taken once again into visions, where he sees not only the affairs of men but the counsels of heaven. These parables unfold like scenes of a great drama, with the fate of nations, the downfall of the wicked, and the restoration of the righteous, all bound together. But beyond these themes, a character begins to emerge, one who is unlike the angels, unlike Enoch himself, and unlike any figure introduced before. This is the one called the Son of Man. His appearance within the parables is quiet at first, almost like a shadow forming at the edge of sight. Yet, as the visions unfold, the figure grows clearer, more defined, until his presence commands the stage of heaven itself. The title, Son of Man, carries a weight that reaches beyond language. At its simplest, it seems to speak of humanity, of one who shares the nature of man. Yet in Enoch's visions, this Son of Man is no ordinary man. He appears before the throne of glory, seated in judgment, surrounded by hosts of angels who bow in reverence. His face shines like light, his words carry authority, and his very presence radiates holiness. How could one bearing the likeness of man hold such honor in the midst of heaven? It is this mystery that has stirred wonder for generations, for the title itself is humble, while the figure described is exalted beyond measure. Around him, Enoch describes countless hosts, angelic beings, standing in reverence, their presence like pillars upholding the very order of creation. Before this court, the rulers of the earth stand not as sovereigns but as defendants, their boasts and claims silenced. Every secret act, every hidden cruelty, every word spoken in arrogance is called forth into the open. There is a rhythm to this justice, a kind of poetic balance that Enoch captures. Those who lifted themselves high at the expense of the meek now find themselves bowed low. Those who gloried in their own strength see their hands emptied of power. Those who silenced the cries of the oppressed now hear their voices rising like waves in the eternal courtroom. In Enoch's telling, this reversal is not cruel but fitting, not chaotic but ordered. The scales of eternity tip in favor of truth, and the judge ensures that no injustice slips away unnoticed. The kings and rulers, clothed once in rich garments, appear stripped of their illusions. Their crowns, once gleaming in the sunlight of their empires, scatter like dust in the light of heaven. Their words, once heavy with command, dissolve into stammering silence before the clarity of the judge's gaze. They cannot purchase favor. They cannot plead ignorance, for the one before whom they stand sees not only their deeds, but the intentions of their hearts. The judge's light pierces deeper than any human tribunal, reaching places no witness could ever testify to, places hidden even from themselves. Yet even in this awe-inspiring severity, there is a serenity to the vision. Enoch does not portray the courtroom as a place of frantic terror, but as a place where truth finally rests secure. The voices of angels echo not with shouting, but with solemn affirmation. The Messiah's presence is steady, calm, unshakable, like a vast ocean tide washing over all pretenses. The wicked, in this light, see themselves not as they pretended to be, but as they truly are. That realization, more than any external punishment, becomes their undoing. The imagery of judgment is wrapped in cosmic poetry. Enoch describes stars trembling, the foundations of mountains shifting, the seas roaring, all creation bearing witness to the unveiling of justice. It is as though the universe itself has long carried the memory of human corruption, waiting for the day when truth would be spoken. When the Messiah rises to judge, creation responds, sighing in relief as the weight of oppression is lifted. The courtroom is not only a place of reckoning, but of restoration, returning balance to what has been twisted, giving voice to what has been silenced. For the oppressed, this vision becomes a lullaby of hope. They are not left in darkness forever, nor are their tears lost to time. The judge remembers them, sees them, lifts their cause into eternity. The meek who had no seat in the courts of men are invited into the cosmic courtroom where their testimonies are honored. Their suffering, once dismissed as meaningless by earthly rulers, is gathered into the eternal record. And when the sentence is pronounced, it is not only against the wicked, but for the righteous, affirming their endurance and granting them peace. The poetic justice of Enoch's prophecy brings images of reversal. Thrones collapse while the lowly are raised. Crowns turn to dust while the humble are clothed in light. The strong, who thought themselves invincible, are undone by the weight of their own cruelty, while the weak are embraced by the eternal judge's compassion. It is a dreamlike vision of balance restored, where everything that was hidden is brought into the open and every lie is dissolved by truth. The narration of this judgment carries with it the tone of inevitability. Enoch does not describe a courtroom that might appear or a judge who might rise, but one whose coming is certain. Just as dawn follows night without fail, so does judgment follow history. The kings and rulers, no matter how mighty, are bound to appear before this seat. The calm repetition of this truth gives it a sleepy quality, as if whispered again and again to reassure those who wait in darkness. Justice will come. Justice will come. One can imagine the scene as Enoch beheld it, a vast expanse, lit by a glow that has no source but the eternal presence of the judge. The angels surrounding the throne, their voices blending in harmonies that carry neither haste nor urgency, only the weight of certainty. The rulers of the earth stand small before this vastness, their shadows stretching long under the light of eternity. Their titles, their riches, their armies mean nothing here. Only the truth of their hearts remains. And in that truth, the judge speaks with a voice that is both gentle and irresistible, carrying the authority of heaven itself. It is in this voice that the wicked meet their undoing. Not through thunder, not through violence, but through the unyielding presence of truth. Like a mirror that cannot be shattered, the courtroom reveals them as they are. Those who oppressed the meek cannot escape the faces of those they harmed. Those who twisted justice cannot hide from the scales now perfectly balanced. Those who sought glory apart from God cannot stand beneath the radiance of the chosen judge. The weight of this revelation presses upon them more deeply than any sentence could. And yet, for the righteous, this same voice is the sound of release. They hear in it the promise that their patience was not wasted, their suffering was not unseen. The cosmic courtroom becomes a sanctuary for the Gushad, our hope, a place where all the fragments of their sorrow are gathered and made whole. The presence of the Messiah as judge is not only a reckoning, but a comfort, for it affirms that in the end, truth and light prevail over deception and shadow. This vision, told in soft yet unshakable imagery, holds a kind of lullaby rhythm. It soothes even as it stirs awe, reminding the listener that justice is not forgotten, that balance will be restored. The kings, the rulers, the oppressors, all will stand in the great cosmic court, where the Messiah sits as judge, calm and radiant, his gaze steady as eternity itself. And in that light, everything hidden is revealed, and every wrong is finally answered. In the visions preserved in Enoch's writings, the story of the Messiah does not remain bound to the struggles of humankind alone. His authority stretches further into the shadowy places where beings of ancient rebellion linger. These are the Watchers, the angels who abandoned their appointed station, and the giants born of their forbidden union with mortal women. Their tale is one of defiance, of gifts twisted into curses, of knowledge turned against the order of creation. Yet even their story does not escape the light of the Messiah, for Enoch is shown that judgment does not end with kings or rulers of earth. It reaches into the very heart of heaven's rebellion. When Enoch was carried into the higher realms, he was told of those angels who once walked in radiance but chose a different path. They descended to earth, drawn by desire, and with them came forbidden teachings, weapons, enchantments, secrets of the stars, and medicines not meant for humankind. The earth grew heavy beneath their corruption, and the children they fathered, the giants, became terrors upon the land. These beings, vast in size and insatiable in appetite, devoured not only harvests and flocks, but even flesh and blood, until the cries of the oppressed rose up to heaven itself. It is into this brokenness that the figure of the Messiah is revealed as the ultimate judge, one who does not fear the strength of giants or the cunning of fallen angels, but who brings even them into account. The judgment of the Watchers is told with a kind of solemn beauty, as if the scene itself unfolds with slow, inevitable steps. Bound by chains of fire, they are led before the presence of the one chosen by God. No trace remains of their former glory, for the radiance they once carried has been dimmed by disobedience. Their wings, symbols of their heavenly calling, no longer bear them aloft. They stand, stripped of the authority they once misused, and they hear the sentence of the Messiah, whose voice echoes like thunder softened by the stillness of night. In his words is no cruelty, but there is no escape either. They are told of their fate, cast into the abyss, sealed away until the final reckoning. The eternal order is restored, and heaven breathes again. The giants, too, face their end. Enoch describes them as restless, wandering, filled with violence, their immense forms unable to satisfy their own hunger. Their size, once their pride, becomes their undoing, for the earth itself cannot contain them. When judgment falls, they collapse like towering trees cut at the root. Their cries rise like storm winds, but they cannot resist. The Messiah's authority is not bound by physical might. It flows from the will of the Creator, and in its presence, even the greatest of creatures must bow. Some traditions speak of their spirits lingering after death, restless and malevolent, yet even these are subject to the same authority. They are confined, unable to roam freely, awaiting their own place of judgment. The image of the Messiah standing against these rebellious beings carries a dreamlike intensity. Picture a night sky filled with stars, each a silent witness, as chains of light descend upon those who once sought to rival heaven. Picture the trembling of mountains as the footsteps of giants falter beneath the weight of divine command. The stillness of this vision is not empty, but full, as though creation itself sighs in relief. The rebellion that once disrupted harmony is being set right, and even the shadows must yield to the light. What makes this scene so calming, despite its grandeur, is the way justice is portrayed as inevitable rather than violent. There is no frantic struggle, no contest of strength between equals. The Messiah does not fight as men fight, with weapons or armies. His authority is absolute, resting not on force but on divine decree. The Watchers fall because their defiance cannot stand in the presence of eternal truth. The giants collapse because their very existence is bound to corruption, and corruption cannot endure the light. The vision soothes even as it awes, reminding the listener that chaos never has the final word. This judgment also carries a deep sense of restoration. The earth, once corrupted by bloodshed, is cleansed. The heavens, once shadowed by disobedience, are cleared. Humanity, once tormented by powers beyond its control, is sheltered under the authority of the Chosen One. Enoch's descriptions linger on the peace that follows. The air grows quiet, the rivers flow clear, the stars shine unhindered. The very elements seem to rest, as though they too were waiting for this judgment to unfold. In the silence that follows, the presence of the Messiah is felt not only as judge, but as guardian, ensuring that rebellion does not rise unchecked again. The watchers had once pleaded through Enoch for mercy, begging him to intercede on their behalf, but their pleas were rejected. The eternal judge could not be swayed, for mercy cannot erase what has become a deep fracture in creation. Yet there is a stillness even in their condemnation. They are not destroyed in rage, but confined with purpose, their chains a reminder that rebellion cannot rule over eternity. The giants, too, though terrifying in life, fade into silence, their restless spirits confined to shadow, no longer free to ravage the earth. The calmness of this justice is what makes it so powerful in the telling. There is no haste in the Messiah's actions, no hint of uncertainty. Everything unfolds in its time, as if it had always been written. The fallen ones may have imagined themselves beyond reach, yet even they must stand before the eternal judge. Their end does not come with chaos, but with inevitability, as steady as the turning of the heavens. For the listener, this vision becomes a soft assurance. No matter how dark the rebellion, no matter how vast the corruption, it will not prevail forever. Enoch's account lingers on the contrast between the arrogance of the fallen and the quiet authority of the judge. The watchers, who once believed themselves masters of forbidden wisdom, bow in silence. The giants, who once trampled the earth with their size, fall like shadows before dawn. And the Messiah, serene and radiant, stands unshaken through it all. His authority does not rise from struggle, but from eternal certainty, and in his presence, the long story of rebellion finds its end. For those who hear this vision in the stillness of the night, it becomes almost like a lullaby, a gentle reminder that justice stretches beyond the human world into realms unseen. The rebellious angels and the giants born of their disobedience may have seemed unstoppable in their time, yet even they are drawn into the great order of judgment. The Messiah, chosen and hidden with God until the appointed moment, rises not only as light for the righteous and judge of kings, but also as the one who restores creation by bringing even the most fearsome of beings under his command. And in this balance of awe and calm, the heart finds rest, knowing that no shadow is beyond the reach of eternal light. What if the heavens opened, and beyond the veils of cloud and silence, there was a throne unlike any throne the world had ever imagined? What if it was not built of stone, gold, or human craftsmanship, but of light itself, rays woven together, shimmering with a brilliance so pure that the eyes could hardly endure its glow? What if, upon this throne, the Son of Man sat not with the arrogance of earthly rulers, but with a calm authority that radiated both power and peace, a presence that could silence storms and soften the hardest of hearts? In the visions described in the ancient writings, the throne of glory is not a distant idea, but a living, breathing image, heavy with symbolism and beauty. From beneath this throne flows a river, not water as we know it, but fire. It moves like molten gold, streaming outward, unstoppable, consuming, refining. This river is not destruction alone, but purification, carrying away impurity and injustice, leaving behind only what is true and eternal. Around this throne, radiant light extends in all directions, filling the space with an unending brilliance. It is said that no darkness can hide from this light, and no shadow can resist its reach. The Son of Man seated there is not overwhelmed by the grandeur. He is its source. His face shines brighter than the sun, yet it is not harsh. It is the light of understanding, of mercy, of justice perfectly balanced. His eyes pierce through pretension and pretense, and yet they soften when turned toward the faithful who endured with patience. For them, this vision is not terror but comfort, a reassurance that all their suffering was seen and that their hope was not in vain. The throne itself becomes a meeting place of opposites. To the arrogant and unrepentant, its flames are unbearable, a reminder of deeds done in pride and cruelty. To the meek and faithful, it is warmth and safety, the fire that drives away the cold of despair. This duality is central to the vision. The throne is at once judgment and refuge, terror and rest, depending on the heart that approaches it. The Son of Man, seated in majesty, embodies this balance, unshakable authority held within the gentlest of hands. Around him are gathered multitudes. Some are angels, shining like stars, their wings shimmering in the reflection of the radiant throne. They stand in reverence, not as equals, but as servants who recognize in him the eternal authority that surpasses even their celestial strength. Others gathered are the righteous, clothed in garments white as snow, their faces lifted with awe and relief. For them, the sight of the throne means the end of waiting, the end of uncertainty. It is the moment when every tear is acknowledged, every hidden wound is healed. And then there are those who cannot stand before him, kings who built empires through bloodshed, rulers who twisted justice, oppressors who silenced the cries of the poor. All find their strength crumbling in the presence of the throne. Their crowns fall, their voices tremble, for they realize that no power, no army, no wealth can shield them from the light that exposes every hidden act. It is not rage that undoes them, but truth itself. The throne does not thunder in chaos, but rests in stillness, and yet that stillness is more devastating than any earthly battle. The river of fire plays a powerful role in this vision. It moves ceaselessly, carrying away the remnants of corruption. It does not hesitate, does not waver. Those who opposed truth find themselves caught in its flow, unable to resist its current. Yet the faithful walk beside it unharmed, as though its flames bend around them, acknowledging the seal of the one they follow. The imagery is poetic, but also deeply comforting. Judgment is not random, not cruel. It is precise, deliberate, and it flows from the throne of glory like light from the sun. One cannot help but notice how peaceful the vision is, despite its overwhelming power. There is no chaos in this court, no disorder. The throne radiates order, balance, and eternal stability. For those weary of the turbulence of life, the endless rise and fall of kingdoms, this vision is like a lullaby of permanence. Here is a ruler who will not be dethroned, whose justice cannot be corrupted, whose reign is not fleeting but everlasting. The Son of Man does not grasp for power. He embodies it naturally, like the sun shining because it cannot do otherwise. In this radiant hall, time itself feels suspended. The multitudes stand in silence, the angels bow in reverence, the river flows without ceasing, and the light never dims. The throne is not a place reached through conquest, but revealed through revelation. It is as though it has always been there, waiting, hidden behind the curtain of earthly time, until the moment came when the Son of Man would sit upon it openly. His presence on that throne is not a beginning, but a fulfillment, the unveiling of what was destined. The faithful find themselves drawn to his light, not forced, but compelled by the gentleness of his authority. They are not commanded to approach. They are welcomed, their names known, their struggles remembered. The meek, who so often found themselves forgotten in the noise of the world, discover that here, before the throne of glory, they are seen more clearly than ever. Their humility shines brighter than crowns, and their patience is rewarded in a way no earthly honor could match. Even creation itself seems to respond. The skies blaze with color, stars trembling as though bowing, and the very foundations of the earth seem to rest in stillness. The throne is not confined to heaven alone. Its radiance extends to all corners of existence. Mountains, seas, rivers, valleys, all are touched by the light. It is as if the entire universe exhales, relieved that the one true ruler has taken his seat. The Son of Man does not need to raise his voice. His silence is authority, his gaze is law, his presence is decree, and yet within this majesty there is no fear for the faithful. Instead, there is peace, a peace so deep it quiets the soul, easing the restlessness that plagued it. This is why the vision of the throne of glory endures. It is not only about judgment, but about rest, a rest found not in escape, but in the presence of perfect justice and perfect love. And so, the throne stands eternal, rivers of fire flowing, radiant light shining, the Son of Man seated in unshakable majesty. His rule is not loud, not boastful, but serene, as if the very act of his being upon the throne keeps creation in balance. The faithful gather in wonder, the angels bow in reverence, and the wicked tremble in truth revealed. It is a vision that calms and unsettles, that comforts and convicts all at once, and still the light does not fade. What if the bond between the Messiah and the Eternal was unlike anything else in the whole of creation? What if this relationship was not simply that of servant and master, nor merely that of prophet and sender, but something far deeper, a closeness so profound that it surpassed every understanding of human connection? The ancient visions speak of the Messiah as the chosen one, set apart before the foundations of the world, lifted high above every ruler, every angel, every throne. He is not chosen in the way kings are selected by human hands, nor like a prophet rising among his people, but chosen in a manner eternal, written into the very fabric of the universe before the first dawn lit the skies. This chosen one does not stand at a distance from the Most High. He does not serve reluctantly, nor does he need to plead for recognition. Instead, his identity is bound up with the authority of God himself. When he speaks, it is not as an echo, but as a voice resonating with the same authority that shaped the heavens. When he moves, it is not in separation from the eternal will, but as its very expression, like a river flowing from its source. To see him is to glimpse the heart of God. To hear him is to listen to the eternal rhythm of creation. The intimacy of this relationship is described in language that blends majesty with tenderness. The Messiah is seated beside the throne of the Most High, not as a rival but as a companion in glory. The distance between the Creator and all created things is immeasurable, yet the Chosen One sits in a place no other being dares approach. Angels veil their faces, trembling in awe, but he rests in calmness, at home in the eternal light. This nearness is not borrowed but rightful, not grasped but bestowed, an eternal closeness that cannot be undone. In this union, there is shared authority. The Messiah does not rule independently, nor does he act outside the will of the Most High. Instead, his reign is an extension of divine power. The decrees that flow from his lips carry the same weight as if spoken by the Eternal himself. His hand brings justice, his gaze brings truth, his presence ushers peace. Yet this authority does not diminish the Most High. It magnifies him. Just as light shines from the sun without lessening its brilliance, so does the Messiah's authority radiate without reducing the majesty of God. The narration of this judgment carries with it the tone of inevitability. Enoch does not describe a courtroom that might appear or a judge who might rise, but one whose coming is certain. Just as dawn follows night without fail, so does judgment follow history. The kings and rulers, no matter how mighty, are bound to appear before this seat. The calm repetition of this truth gives it a sleepy quality, as if whispered again and again to reassure those who wait in darkness. Justice will come. Justice will come. One can imagine the scene as Enoch beheld it, a vast expanse, lit by a glow that has no source but the eternal presence of the Judge. The angels surrounding the throne, their voices blending in harmonies that carry neither haste nor urgency, only the weight of certainty. The rulers of the earth stand small before this vastness, their shadows stretching long under the light of eternity. Their titles, their riches, their armies mean nothing here. Only the truth of their hearts remains. And in that truth, the judge speaks with a voice that is both gentle and irresistible, carrying the authority of heaven itself. It is in this voice that the wicked meet their undoing, not through thunder, not through violence, but through the unyielding presence of truth. Like a mirror that cannot be shattered, the courtroom reveals them as they are. Those who oppressed the meek cannot escape the faces of those they harmed. Those who twisted justice cannot hide from the scales now perfectly balanced. Those who sought glory apart from God cannot stand beneath the radiance of the chosen judge. The weight of this revelation presses upon them more deeply than any sentence could. And yet, for the righteous, this same voice is the sound of release. They hear in it the promise that their patience was not wasted, their suffering was not unseen. The cosmic courtroom becomes a sanctuary for the Kushan, our hope, a place where all the fragments of their sorrow are gathered and made whole. The presence of the Messiah as judge is not only a reckoning, but a comfort, for it affirms that in the end, truth and light prevail over deception and shadow. This vision, told in soft yet unshakable imagery, holds a kind of lullaby rhythm. It soothes even as it stirs awe, reminding the listener that justice is not forgotten, that balance will be restored. The kings, the rulers, the oppressors, all will stand in the great cosmic court, where the Messiah sits as judge, calm and radiant, his gaze steady as eternity itself. And in that light, everything hidden is revealed, and every wrong is finally answered. In the visions preserved in Enoch's writings, the story of the Messiah does not remain bound to the struggles of humankind alone. His authority stretches further into the shadowy places where beings of ancient rebellion linger. These are the Watchers, the angels who abandoned their appointed station, and the giants born of their forbidden union with mortal women. Their tale is one of defiance, of gifts twisted into curses, of knowledge turned against the order of creation. Yet even their story does not escape the light of the Messiah, for Enoch is shown that judgment does not end with kings or rulers of earth. It reaches into the very heart of heaven's rebellion. When Enoch was carried into the higher realms, he was told of those angels who once walked in radiance but chose a different path. They descended to earth, drawn by desire, and with them came forbidden teachings, weapons, enchantments, secrets of the stars, and medicines not meant for humankind. The earth grew heavy beneath their corruption, and the children they fathered, the giants, became terrors upon the land. In this eternal relationship, the Messiah is not only exalted, but also compassionate. He does not wield authority coldly, nor does he distance himself from those who look to him. His closeness to God makes him more tender, not less. Just as he shares in divine authority, he shares in divine mercy. The faithful feel this when they whisper their prayers in the dark and sense that they are heard, not ignored. His eternal bond with the Most High becomes the bridge between heaven and earth, the connection through which human longing meets divine response. Thus, the picture of the Messiah's relationship with God is one of majesty and intimacy, of authority and gentleness. He is chosen, eternally close, sharing fully in divine authority, yet reaching out in compassion to those who wait in hope. The throne of glory and the river of fire may inspire awe and trembling, but this relationship inspires trust. It tells of a bond that cannot be broken, of a unity that ensures every promise will be kept, of a closeness that radiates light across eternity without fading. And still, the vision of the Chosen One seated beside the Most High endures, steady and serene, unshaken by time, unclouded by doubt, a reminder that heaven and earth alike rest secure under his shared authority. What if the world, broken and weary, was always meant to be healed? What if the tears of the earth, the groaning of creation, and the sighs of every living thing were leading toward a moment of restoration? In the ancient prophecies, the Messiah is not only a judge of the wicked or a light for the righteous, he is also the one through whom all of creation will be renewed. His role is not confined to souls or kingdoms alone. It stretches to the very foundations of the earth, touching every stream, every mountain, every forest, and every creature. He comes not simply to rule, but to restore, to bring harmony where there has been fracture, to weave peace back into the fabric of existence. This vision of restoration begins with the renewal of the earth itself. In the days of sorrow, land lies wasted, waters are polluted with violence, and skies are heavy with the cries of oppression. But in the hands of the Messiah, the earth breathes again, where deserts stretch endlessly, blossoms emerge, where floods once destroyed, calm rivers flow in clarity. The ground, cursed since the first rebellion, no longer resists human hands. Instead, it yields its fruit freely, abundant and sweet. The renewal is not forced, not imposed. It unfolds as if creation has been waiting all along for the touch of its rightful king. The prophecies paint this renewal with gentle strokes, giving images that bring comfort to the weary heart. Imagine valleys clothed in green, mountains no longer torn by war, oceans shimmering with peace rather than turmoil. The earth does not fight against itself. Storms quiet, and the rhythms of nature fall into harmony. Every creature finds its place, and there is no longer predation or fear. Even the smallest bird rests in safety, and the wild beasts graze together without violence. This is not merely survival. It is paradise reborn, a peaceful order that reflects the beauty of divine intent. The Messiah's role in this renewal is both cosmic and tender. He carries authority that spans galaxies, yet his work touches the smallest details of life. The soil enriched, the streams flowing clear, the trees bearing fruit in season, all are signs of his reign. He does not dominate creation as a tyrant, but restores it as a healer. His presence draws forth life from what was once barren, and his gaze seems to coax harmony out of chaos. In him, the earth recognizes its shepherd, and under his care, it flourishes. For those who have lived through hardship, this imagery is more than poetry, it is hope. Fields once scorched by famine now teem with harvest. Cities once scarred by violence are rebuilt in peace. Children grow without fear, and elders rest without sorrow. Even the air feels lighter, carrying not the stench of destruction but the fragrance of renewal. The Messiah does not merely repair what was broken. He brings forth a world that surpasses what was lost. His restoration is not about returning to the beginning, but about fulfilling the promise of creation's purpose. The peace he establishes is more than the absence of conflict. It is a harmony that touches every layer of existence. Human hearts are at rest, no longer tormented by envy, fear, or hatred. Nations are at peace, their swords melted down into tools for cultivation, and nature itself reflects this harmony. The roar of storms softens, and the cries of creatures turn into songs of contentment. The Messiah does not rule by suppressing discord, but by filling creation with his light, so fully that there is no space left for darkness. In this restored world, the boundaries between heaven and earth seem thinner. The presence of the eternal flows freely, and the creation is no longer alienated from its maker. The Messiah serves as the bridge, ensuring that the divine plan permeates every aspect of life. The garden imagery of paradise is not simply a return to Eden, but something even greater, a perfected harmony where God and creation dwell together in unbroken fellowship. This is the comfort that lies at the heart of the prophecy, not only that the righteous are vindicated, but that all creation shares in their joy. The visions often describe this restoration with language that soothes the soul. Gentle rivers flowing with clarity, trees heavy with fruit, sunlight falling soft upon fields of peace. These images do not decorate the prophecy. They offer a glimpse into a reality that the faithful long for. The weary listener, hearing these words, can almost feel the cool breeze of that renewed earth, smell the blossoms of the paradise to come, and rest in the promise that such harmony is not a dream, but a destiny. The Messiah's role in this is deeply personal as well. He is not distant, presiding from a throne far removed from creation's renewal. He walks amidst it, tending to the restored earth as a shepherd to his flock. His hands are gentle upon the vines, his steps soft upon the grass, his presence bringing calm to both creature and creation. The intimacy of his care shows that the renewal is not abstract. It is lived, touched, and felt. Those who dwell in this renewed creation experience his nearness as constant reassurance, a reminder that the world is not left alone, but held in loving authority. Even in the cosmic scale of this renewal, there is attention to the smallest details. The sparrow in its nest, the lamb in the meadow, the child at play, all are encompassed in his restoration. Nothing is overlooked, nothing forgotten. The Messiah's care reaches from the grand to the minute, making the renewal complete. The faithful find peace in knowing that no part of creation is excluded, that the harmony he brings is all-encompassing, leaving no corner untouched by his light. The hope of this restored creation also offers healing for memory. The scars of history, the wars, the famines, the floods, the oppressions, no longer dictate the present. Under the Messiah, the earth itself seems to release its sorrow, and humanity breathes freely again. The land does not carry the weight of violence anymore. Instead, it sings with new life. This healing is not about forgetting, but about being renewed so completely that the pain loses its power. What makes this vision most comforting is its permanence. Unlike the fragile peace of human empires or the temporary recovery of nature, the restoration brought by the Messiah does not fade. It is eternal, rooted in the unchanging will of God. The harmony he establishes is not subject to decay or corruption because it is upheld by the eternal bond between him and the Most High. This assurance turns the prophecy into a lullaby for the weary soul, a promise that the world is moving toward a lasting peace. The role of the Messiah in restoring creation, then, is both vast and intimate, cosmic and personal. He renews the earth itself, establishes harmony among all creatures, heals the wounds of history, and brings comfort through imagery of paradise. His restoration is not merely symbolic but deeply real, touching every aspect of existence with peace. And so the visions linger, like a gentle dream whispered into the heart, soothing the listener into rest with the promise that one day, world will breathe again in perfect harmony under the care of the Chosen One. What if all those who had held on to faith through storms, who had clung to hope when the world seemed dark, were finally brought together? What if scattered hearts, separated by oceans, mountains, and generations, found themselves gathered in a single place of peace? The prophecies of Enoch paint this picture, the gathering of the righteous under the care of the Messiah. It is not only a vision of assembly, but one of unity, of souls drawn together like gentle streams flowing into a great, calm river. The gathering begins with the image of people long scattered, some forgotten by history, others hidden in corners of the earth. They are not the mighty or the celebrated, but those who lived quietly in faith, waiting, enduring, hoping. From every nation and tribe, from distant valleys and bustling cities, they are calling forth. Their footsteps converge, not rushed or chaotic, but steady and certain, like pilgrims who have always known the path would one day lead them home. The Messiah appears as a shepherd in this vision, his presence calm yet strong. His voice calls, and the faithful hear it deep within, as though it has always been echoing in their hearts. No one is left uncertain, no one wanders confused. His call is clear, like a melody that reaches even the farthest soul, and one by one, the righteous answer. They rise, not in fear or trembling, but in relief and joy. The long separation is over, the loneliness of exile replaced by belonging. In this assembly, unity is not forced. There is no hierarchy, no contest for place or honor. Each soul stands in peace beside another, equal in the Messiah's care. Differences of language, culture, or time dissolve like mist before the morning sun. What remains is a serene harmony, a gathering bound not by human design but by divine love. They are like a flock gathered at last in green pastures, safe under the shepherd's watchful eye. The imagery carries a softness that soothes the heart. Imagine open fields where the faithful gather, the air warm but gentle, the sky painted with quiet light. There are no shadows of fear, no looming threats. The ground feels firm beneath their feet, yet soft, as if creation itself welcomes their presence. In this place, the righteous are not strangers to one another, for the same hope has lived within them all. Smiles pass between them, not of introduction but of recognition, as though they had always known they were part of the same family. The shepherd does not merely assemble them, he tends to them. He walks among them, his hand resting upon shoulders, his gaze reassuring. For those who carried heavy burdens, his presence is rest. For those who wept alone, his nearness is comfort. For those who struggle, in obscurity, his recognition is honor. Each soul feels seen, known, and cherished. The assembly is not simply a crowd, it is a family gathered at last around the one who has always held them close. The visions also speak of songs rising among the gathered. These are not songs of triumph in the worldly sense, but hymns of peace, gentle and steady. Voices blend, not competing but weaving together like threads forming a single tapestry of sound. The music fills the air, not loud but deep, resonating in the soul. The shepherd listens and the faithful sing as though their hearts have finally found release. The harmony is not just sound, but the expression of unity itself. This gathering is more than a moment. It is a dwelling. The righteous are not called together only to scatter again. They remain, resting in the presence of the Messiah, finding in him their center. There is no need for fear of separation, for the shepherd never leaves them. His presence ensures that the unity remains unbroken, the peace uninterrupted. The faithful are safe, not because of walls or weapons, but because they are gathered under his eternal care. The assembly also brings healing. Many who arrive carry wounds from the world, scars of injustice, of loss, of rejection. In the Messiah's presence, these wounds no longer define them. The gathering itself is a balm, showing them that they were never truly alone, that their faith was not in vain. Standing among countless others who endured, they realize their stories are threads in a greater fabric. The unity restores dignity, turning sorrow into belonging and pain into peace. The imagery often expands to creation itself joining this gathering. The fields seem to rejoice in their steps, the skies open with light, and the earth hums with quiet gladness. It is as though the natural world recognizes the rightful shepherd and the flock he has brought together. Trees sway gently as if bowing, rivers murmur softly as if singing along. The gathering of the righteous is not only human, it is cosmic, a restoration of harmony between creation and the faithful who were meant to dwell within it. One can almost picture the scene as a vast meadow, stretching farther than sight allows, filled with souls clothed in peace. The shepherd stands at the center, radiant but approachable, his smile warm, his presence steady. Around him, the faithful rest, no longer wandering, no longer seeking. There is no anxiety, no suspicion, only trust. The unity here is not fragile, not subject to division. It is eternal, secured by the shepherd's love and the Most High's promise. The serene beauty of this vision lingers long after it is spoken. It speaks not only to the longing of the ancients, but to every heart that has felt the ache of loneliness or the sting of separation. To imagine being gathered, embraced in belonging, cared for without condition, is to taste the peace promised by the prophecy. The shepherd's voice still echoes in these words, gentle yet strong, calling the weary to rest, calling the scattered to gather, calling every faithful soul into the calm of his fold. And so the picture unfolds, quiet and tender. The faithful assembled, not by chance but by design, their unity not of their own making but born of divine love. The Messiah as shepherd, not distant but present, not abstract but personal. The serene imagery of unity flows like a gentle stream, carrying the listener deeper into rest. The gathering is not hurried, not overwhelming. It is patient, soothing, and complete, as though time itself pauses to allow the faithful to finally stand together in peace under the everlasting care of the one who called them home. The kings of the earth who once carried themselves with untouchable pride are seen in this vision brought low, their crowns falling from their heads as if made of dust, and their thrones dissolving like mist before the morning sun. They had ruled with arrogance, clutching their power with iron hands, imagining that no judgment would ever reach them. Yet the scene unfolds in a way that strips their grandeur and exposes their fragile humanity. Their downfall is not violent in a storm of noise, but quiet, inevitable, like a candle extinguished by a steady breeze. Where once they stood in pride, they now bow their heads with trembling, no longer commanding armies or nations, but standing as common souls before the greater throne. The image lingers as a contrast to the righteous, who are gathered in serenity and clothed in light, while the proud rulers face the unraveling of everything they thought secure. Their arrogance had been their fortress, built from wealth, armies, and flattery, yet in this vision it shatters as though it were glass. These kings are depicted as having spoken with lofty voices, raising themselves higher than others, but when weighed in the balance, their words fall silent. There is no audience to praise them, no loyal subjects to bow before them. The silence around them is their judgment. The quietness is not the peace of rest, but the stillness of exposed guilt. Humility, which they despised, rises in contrast as a crown upon the heads of the lowly who trusted in the Most High. The starkness of the vision lies in its simplicity. The proud sink low, while the humble are lifted up. The downfall is described not as sudden chaos, but as a slow unwinding, the stripping away of false garments. Their faces, once hardened by pride, now soften into fear, their eyes glancing around for escape where there is none. The imagery is calm but heavy, a picture of inevitability that comes without fanfare, showing that divine justice does not require noise to be complete. They are removed from their places of influence as naturally as shadows retreat before light. This quiet justice speaks louder than any trumpet blast, for it reveals a truth that cannot be ignored. No throne of man stands unshaken before the throne of heaven. Their arrogance had been fueled by their belief that power excused cruelty, that strength justified oppression. But in this judgment scene, their actions return to them as though written in fire. Each act of pride rises like a weight upon their shoulders, pressing them lower until they cannot stand. In contrast, the humble are lifted gently, carried as though on a calm wind. The imagery paints a universe reordered, where the strong no longer dominate and the meek are not trampled. It is a vision not of chaos, but of balance restored, as though creation itself breathes a sigh of relief at the removal of oppressive rule. The kings who had mocked the righteous are now silent, their laughter extinguished. Their crowns, once symbols of pride, are seen rolling in the dust, meaningless and forgotten. Their palaces, their cities, their monuments crumble in the background of the vision, reminding the listener that even the greatest works of human pride are temporary when measured against eternity. The contrast grows sharper as the humble stand serene, their peace undisturbed, their place secure. The king's downfall is not only a personal humbling, but a cosmic rebalancing, where arrogance finds no place to root itself. The vision does not portray their destruction as wrathful or chaotic. It is calm, like a gardener cutting away diseased branches to allow the tree to thrive. The quietness of it all is what makes it most striking. There are no storms, no great battles, only the removal of what does not belong, leaving behind the space for new growth. The kings fall, their thrones vanish, and the world does not mourn them. Instead, creation seems lighter without the weight of their arrogance. This is justice not shouted but whispered, not forced but inevitable. As they are stripped of their pride, the kings appear small, no different from the common man. Their rich garments fade, their titles dissolve, and their voices tremble. The arrogance that once made them appear larger than life is gone, and all that remains is frail humanity. The vision lingers on this contrast, showing that humility, which they scorned, becomes the very key to honor in this new order. Their downfall is not painted as cruel but as fitting, as though the balance of the universe gently corrected itself. The silence of their judgment is mirrored by the peace of the righteous, who stand untouched, watching without malice. The humble do not rejoice in the downfall of the proud. They simply remain, like steady lights in the darkness. This quiet contrast is where the power of the vision lies. Arrogance collapses under its own weight, while humility stands firm without effort. The kings are forgotten, while the righteous are remembered. Justice is seen not in fiery vengeance, but in calm inevitability. The image of the wicked kings in their downfall becomes a lesson painted in stillness. Pride may roar like thunder, but it vanishes like smoke. Humility may seem small, but it endures like stone. The rulers who once thought themselves above all are now shown as the lowest, while those they once despised rise with quiet dignity. The vision leaves the impression of a world where arrogance has no future, where humility is the lasting strength, and where justice is as calm and natural as the rising of the sun. The vision opens gently, as though the world itself has been washed clean, and the air carries a stillness untouched by sorrow. The Messiah stands as the keeper of this everlasting dwelling, and those who have endured in faith are gathered into a place that knows no decay. Their reward is not of gold or fleeting treasures, but of life without end, woven into the fabric of creation itself. Eternal life is not described as endless days of labor, but as a deep rest that never grows weary, a joy that does not fade, a presence that never withdraws. Here, the righteous find not only shelter, but belonging, a home prepared for them with care beyond measure. The vision reassures the weary heart that faithfulness is not forgotten, and the promise is not uncertain. Rivers flow through this eternal dwelling, clear as crystal, their waters never muddied, their currents never stilled. They wind softly through gardens where trees bear fruit in their season, each branch alive with abundance, each leaf carrying healing. These gardens are not overgrown or wild, but tended with divine care, harmonizing beauty and order. The imagery comforts like a lullaby, for it speaks of a place where every thirst is quenched, every hunger satisfied, not by striving, but by simple presence. Water here is not just drink, but life itself, a flowing assurance that renewal never ends. The sound of these rivers, gentle and unceasing, fills the eternal dwelling with music that brings calm to the soul. The gardens stretch endlessly, yet no path is lost. Every step is guided, every corner radiant with peace. The earth no longer carries scars of violence, nor do thorns rise to wound the feet of those who walk. Grass bends softly, flowers open without wilting, and the air is sweet without heaviness. The righteous move freely, no longer bound by fear or the limitations of age. The imagery paints a dwelling that is not simply survival but delight, where the senses are awakened without exhaustion and where life flows without interruption. The promise of eternal life is here expressed not as mere continuation, but as renewal, as though existence itself has been reimagined into perfection. The Messiah stands at the heart of this dwelling, not distant upon a mountain, but near, walking among those who were faithful. His presence is light, yet not blinding. It warms without scorching, comforts without overwhelming. He is both king and companion, both shepherd and friend, guiding without force and leading without burden. The eternal life of the righteous is tied not only to the beauty of the dwelling, but to the nearness of the Messiah, whose companionship becomes the deepest part of their joy. This closeness is peace itself, a reassurance that there is no separation, no absence, only union that endures forever. In this place, time is no longer measured by the rising and setting of the sun. There is no night of fear, no shadows of uncertainty. Instead, light flows constantly, not harshly, but like the soft glow of dawn that never fades. The eternal dwelling is bathed in this radiance, and those who live within it carry the same light upon their faces. They are not restless, for the need to count days or worry over endings has passed. Eternity does not weigh upon them, but frees them, as though each moment is whole and complete. It is a vision of timeless rest, where the burdens of mortality are dissolved into joy without end. The righteous find companionship in this dwelling, a unity not strained by division or rivalry. Each soul is at peace with the other, each heart beats in harmony with the whole. The imagery here is serene, describing a gathering not of strangers but of family reunited, each one known and cherished. There is no jealousy, no striving for place, for all are already at home. They sit together beneath trees heavy with fruit, walk along riverbanks lined with flowers, and lift their voices not in lament, but in quiet song. The eternal life given here is not solitary but shared, and its beauty lies in the perfection of communion. The imagery of peace is profound in its simplicity. No war drums echo in the distance, no cries of pain disturb the air. The weapons of the world are forgotten, rusting into the soil, while the earth itself yields only abundance. Even the animals of the fields and the birds of the sky seem at ease, no longer bound by fear or predation. A lamb may rest beside a lion, a dove may fly unafraid through the trees. The eternal dwelling is not only for humankind, but for creation itself, restored and reconciled. In this vision, peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but the fullness of harmony, an everlasting calm. The reassurance given through this vision is gentle yet profound. For those who have labored, who have endured trials, who have walked through shadows, the promise of this eternal life offers rest. It does not erase the past, but redeems it, turning sorrow into memory without pain, loss into reunion, struggle into triumph. The calmness of the imagery, with rivers and gardens and radiant light, wraps the soul in comfort. It reminds the faithful that their journey is not in vain, that the road of faith leads not to emptiness, but to a dwelling prepared, eternal and secure. The Messiah's role is not only to grant eternal life, but to dwell within it alongside his people. His authority is not distant, nor does it cast fear, but it is seen in his care, in the way he shepherds his own into fields of rest. The eternal dwelling is his gift, but it is also his presence that makes it eternal. The gardens could wither, the rivers could dry, the light could fade, but his nearness ensures that none of these things will ever cease. He is the anchor of eternity, and those who receive life in this place are bound to him in a union that cannot be broken. The vision of eternal life under the Messiah's care is painted not in thunderous declarations, but in quiet scenes, in waters flowing, in gardens blooming, in peace settling like a soft blanket upon the earth. It is reassurance in its purest form, calming the anxious heart and steadying the weary soul. This eternal dwelling is not far off or uncertain, but sure, waiting like a home long prepared, filled with the sound of gentle rivers and the light of everlasting day. It is the promise of the righteous, the hope that steadies them, and the reward that makes every trial worthwhile. The image of the Messiah as intercessor emerges with a tenderness that quiets the restless heart. He is not portrayed as a distant ruler, seated high above the struggles of men, but as one who bends close to hear their cries. His voice rises before the Most High not in thunder, but in a calm plea, carrying the names and needs of the faithful. The role of intercessor is a role of mercy, where the Messiah stands in the space between heaven and earth, joining the frailty of humankind to the majesty of the eternal. It is a vision of care, a reminder that no prayer goes unheard, no sorrow remains unseen. The intercession of the Messiah is like a bridge of light, joining two shores that would otherwise remain forever apart. Enoch's writings carry glimpses of this sacred duty, speaking of one who would stand as advocate for the righteous, one whose presence would soften judgment with mercy. This figure does not plead for the arrogant or the unrepentant, but for those who tremble, for those who seek peace and yet falter. The intercessor's work is not to erase justice but to temper it, to cover the faithful with compassion, so they may stand unafraid before the throne. It is a work of patience, of constant care, never ceasing, never growing weary. In this way, the Messiah is seen as more than judge or king. He is also the defender of the humble, the one who speaks when their voices fall silent. The imagery of this role is gentle and reassuring. One might imagine the Messiah lifting his hands toward the heavens, not in command, but in prayer. His words flow like streams of clear water, carrying the burdens of his people upward. Each word spoken is not cold or formal, but born of love and intimacy. The intercessor knows their hearts, their weaknesses, their fears, and so his prayer is perfectly attuned to their need. Nothing is overlooked, nothing dismissed. His intercession is like a constant melody rising before the Most High, a song that blends sorrow with hope, weakness with faith, and lifts it all into mercy. The image of a bridge captures the heart of this mystery. Humanity, weighed down by frailty, stands on one side, gazing across a chasm too wide to cross. On the other side shines the dwelling of the eternal, radiant, pure, and unreachable. The Messiah, as intercessor, lays himself across that divide, forming a living bridge. He does not merely guide the faithful across, he becomes the very path by which they are joined to heaven. His intercession is not an occasional act, but an ongoing presence, the very connection that unites creation with its creator. Without him, the chasm would remain. With him, the distance dissolves into closeness. The tone of this vision is peaceful, almost like a lullaby whispered into the soul. It reassures the listener that their frailty is not the end of the story, that the weight they carry is not too heavy to be lifted before the throne. The intercessor bears it for them, transforming cries of despair into prayers of hope. In this way, the faithful do not stand alone in the great courtroom of heaven. They do not stammer or tremble before the brightness of the Most High, for the Messiah's voice rises in their place, strong where two are weak, calm where they are shaken. This mercy is not only profound, but deeply personal, wrapping each soul in the assurance that they are remembered. The writings of Enoch describe the Son of Man as chosen, hidden with the eternal until the appointed time, and then revealed as the one to whom authority was given. Within this authority lies the role of intercession, for power without compassion would bring only fear. But the Messiah's greatness is not measured by force alone. It is displayed in his willingness to stand for others, to plead when they cannot. His authority becomes a shelter, a shield, and a gentle hand guiding the lost. Intercession is the heart of his kingship, for he rules not only by decree but by prayer, lifting his people before the Father with unwavering devotion. One might imagine the Messiah moving among the righteous as a shepherd, gathering them in his arms and carrying them into his intercession. Each soul becomes a part of his prayer, each name etched into his heart. The weak are not cast aside but held more closely, the weary not rebuked but comforted. His intercession is not selective, not given only to the strong or the wise, but offered to all who cling to hope. This shepherding image deepens the comfort of the vision, painting the intercessor as one who not only knows the path, but walks it alongside his people, carrying their burdens as his own. The peaceful narration of this role unfolds like a scene of quiet confidence. Picture a vast hall of light where the Most High dwells in unapproachable radiance. The faithful stand trembling at the edges, unsure if they belong. Into this space enters the Messiah, calm and radiant, yet approachable. He does not leave his people behind, but draws them forward, placing himself between them and the brilliance of judgment. His words rise like incense, steady and unwavering, filling the hall with a fragrance of mercy. The faithful feel their fear dissolve, for they know they are not alone, and the gaze of the Eternal softens at the plea of the beloved Son. This role of intercession is not only for the present but for eternity. It ensures that the connection between humanity and heaven is never broken, that the bond of love is unshakable. The faithful are never forgotten, for their intercessor never ceases. Even in the silence of their prayers, his voice continues. Even in the moments when they falter, his strength endures. This is the mercy that flows unending, a river of grace that never runs dry. The vision allows the heart to rest, for it assures that the Messiah's work is ongoing, never ceasing, always faithful. The calm beauty of this truth is that the Messiah does not intercede reluctantly but with joy. His love for the righteous is not duty-bound, but flows freely, naturally, as though it is his very nature to plead for them. His intercession is not a burden, but a song, not a weight, but a delight. In this way, divine mercy is not only a gift received, but an eternal reality, steady as the rising of light, gentle as the flowing of water. To rest in this knowledge is to find peace, for the faithful need never wonder if they are remembered. Their intercessor lives, and his voice rises always before the throne, carrying their names, their hopes, and their hearts into the eternal embrace of the Most High. The writings attributed to Enoch carry a deep sense of wonder when they speak of the Messiah, for he is revealed not with a single name, but through many titles, each one a layer of meaning, each one unfolding a different aspect of his nature. The language is gentle, almost like waves touching the shore again and again, each tide carrying a name, a description, a vision of who this figure truly is. Among the most prominent of these titles is the Son of Man, a phrase that whispers of humility and mystery, a name that ties the Messiah to humanity even as it lifts him into the realm of glory. The repetition of these names throughout Enoch's visions has the quality of a refrain, reminding the listener that the Messiah is not bound to one role, but shines in many, his identity too vast to be captured by a single word. The Son of Man appears as one of the most intriguing titles in these ancient visions. It carries with it the image of one who is like humankind, familiar and close, yet at the same time radiant with divine majesty. In the writings, this figure is described as seated upon the throne of glory, clothed in light, and entrusted with authority by the Eternal. The phrase reassures the faithful that their Redeemer is not far removed from their struggles. He is not a stranger to the path of mortality, but shares in it, bearing their burdens, walking among them. At the same time, the name carries a mystery, for this Son of Man is not merely another mortal. He is hidden with God from before the beginning, waiting for the appointed time to be revealed. The title itself bridges two worlds, holding together both the closeness of humanity and the transcendence of divinity. Another title that shines through Enoch's writings is the Elect One. This phrase carries the sense of divine choice, of being singled out by the Eternal for a mission that no other could fulfill. The Elect One is not simply powerful. He is beloved, chosen before the foundations of the world to bring light, justice, and mercy. The tone of this name is calm yet profound, for it speaks not only of authority but of intimacy. To be elect is to be cherished, to be set apart in the heart of God himself. The faithful, hearing this title, would find comfort in knowing that the one who intercedes for them, who judges with fairness, and who restores creation has been chosen with care and purpose. His role is not accidental but woven into the eternal plan, steady and sure. The title, Righteous One, carries its own gentle strength. Where the Son of Man bridges humanity and the Elect One reflects divine choice, the Righteous One speaks of character, of purity, justice, and unshakable truth. This name assures the faithful that the Messiah's actions are always upright, that his rule is guided not by whims or shifting desires, but by the eternal standard of righteousness. In a world marred by corruption, where rulers often abused power and the innocent were overlooked, the promise of a righteous one brought deep peace. This figure would not fail them, nor would he bend under pressure or temptation. His righteousness is steady, a light that never flickers, a compass that never loses direction. The repetition of these names, Son of Man, Elect One, Righteous One, creates a rhythm in Enoch's visions, almost like a chant that lulls the soul into calm reflection. Each title builds upon the last, expanding the picture of the Messiah while maintaining harmony. To speak of him as Son of Man highlights his nearness, to call him elect. One emphasizes his purpose and beloved status. To name him the Righteous One reveals his moral perfection and justice. Together, they form a portrait that is layered and profound, reminding the listener that the Messiah cannot be confined to one image or function. He is the sum of all these titles and more, each one a facet of his eternal glory. Hidden within these names is a sense of secrecy, a reminder that much of the Messiah's identity was kept veiled until the appointed time. The faithful of Enoch's day would have felt the mystery in these titles, glimpsing truth yet not seeing it fully. The names act as windows into a reality too vast to be entirely understood, like stars glimpsed through the night sky. The Son of Man was hidden with God, the Elect One chosen before creation, the Righteous One revealed only to the faithful. Each name offered come, fort, yet each also carried mystery, a sense that there was always more to uncover, always more depth in the being of the Messiah. The gentle rhythm of repeated titles also serves another purpose. It reassures through constancy. In an uncertain world, the repetition of these names anchors the soul. Each time the Son of Man is spoken of, the listener is reminded of his nearness. Each time the Elect One is mentioned, the eternal plan is brought to mind. Each time the Righteous One is named, confidence is restored that justice will prevail. This rhythm lulls like a soft song, steady and comforting, drawing the faithful deeper into the hope of the Messiah. It is as if the names themselves carry power, wrapping the soul in calm assurance. The interplay of these names also highlights the Messiah's many roles. As Son of Man, he shares in human weakness and yet rises in glory. As Elect One, he fulfills a divine mission with authority and love. As Righteous One, he judges faithfully, never straying from truth. These roles are not contradictory, but harmonious, each one flowing into the other, much like rivers converging into a single stream. The Messiah cannot be reduced to one aspect, for his nature embraces all of them together. The faithful are called to rest in the fullness of his identity, trusting not in fragments, but in the wholeness of who he is. Even the sound of these titles carries weight. The words themselves, spoken aloud, create a rhythm that echoes through the heart. Son of Man, Elect One, Righteous One. Each name falls softly yet firmly, steadying the spirit like the toll of a distant bell. The repetition becomes a meditation, a way of sinking into the vision and allowing the truth to wash over the soul. These names are not only descriptors, but reminders, signposts pointing to the eternal reality of the Messiah's presence and purpose. Thus, the hidden names and titles of the Messiah in Enoch's visions are not merely labels, but revelations. Each one is a glimpse into his nature, his mission, and his eternal role. They comfort by their familiarity, they inspire by their mystery, and they reassure by their constancy. the Son of Man, the Elect One, the Righteous One. Together they weave a tapestry of hope, a vision of the Messiah that is both near and transcendent, hidden and revealed, human and divine. In their gentle repetition lies peace, and in their layered meanings lies the unshakable promise of a Savior whose identity is deeper than words can capture. In the ancient visions that Enoch described, there appears the image of a book unlike any other, a sacred scroll that rests before the throne of the Eternal. This book is not filled with ordinary words, nor is it written in the ink of human hands. It is the book of life, a record of souls, a gentle remembrance of those who belong to the Most High. The image carries a sense of stillness, as though time itself pauses while the pages are opened and the names within are read. In these pages, the faithful find their place, their stories preserved, their lives remembered not by fading memories of earth, but by the eternal memory of heaven. To hear of this book is to feel a calm reassurance that nothing done in faith is ever forgotten, and no righteous soul ever disappears into silence. The Book of Life is often portrayed as a scroll, rolled and unrolled at the command of the Eternal. Enoch describes the righteous being preserved within it, their names carefully inscribed, their destinies held secure. The act of writing is not hurried nor careless. It is deliberate, as though every letter carries the weight of a soul's eternal worth. To imagine this book is to imagine a quiet library in heaven, where every life that turned toward God is treasured and remembered forever. Just as one might keep a cherished letter in a safe place, so too are the names of the faithful kept in this heavenly record, untouched by time or decay. The thought of such a book brings peace because it suggests a divine memory that never fails. Human beings forget, even those they love most, for time blurs edges and softens faces. Yet in the Book of Life, nothing fades. The child who prayed, the elder who endured, the weary traveler who whispered faith in the night, all are inscribed with care, preserved without loss. This assurance is like a quiet lullaby for the soul, calming fears of being overlooked, reminding each heart that before the throne of God, their story remains alive. The presence of this book also emphasizes the closeness between the Messiah and the faithful. For in Enoch's vision, the Messiah is not merely a distant judge, but one who knows those whose names are written. He is aware of their struggles, their faith, their longing. The scroll is not an abstract record, but a testament to relationship, a testimony that each soul belongs to him. When the Messiah looks upon the Book of Life, he does not see mere names. He sees beloved lives, familiar faces, and cherished journeys. This bond gives warmth to the imagery, transforming what could be a cold ledger into a living memory filled with affection and love. To hear of the Book of Life is to be reminded of divine justice, but it is a justice carried out with tenderness. For while there are those who turn away and find their names absent, the emphasis falls upon those who are preserved. It is not a book meant to inspire fear, but one meant to instill hope. The faithful can rest in the quiet knowledge that their efforts, their faithfulness, their humble prayers are not lost in the noise of the world. They are seen, known, and remembered in a way far deeper than human recognition can offer. It is as though the Eternal himself leans close, writing each name with his own hand, ensuring that none are missed. This image of the scroll also ties to the eternal nature, of the Messiah's mission. He is not only the light for the righteous, the judge of the wicked, the ruler of glory, he is also the keeper of this record, the one in whom memory and mercy meet. In Enoch's prophecies, the Messiah stands as the witness to those inscribed, the one who holds their lives close to his heart. When the pages are opened, it is his voice that affirms, his presence that secures. The gentle repetition of this theme throughout the visions allows the soul to sink into peace, like listening to the steady rhythm of waves upon the shore. One can almost imagine the sound of the scroll being unrolled, the parchment crackling softly in the silence of heaven. The angels might lean close, listening, as each name is spoken aloud with reverence. There is no rush, no hurry, for eternity has no need of haste. The reading of the Book of Life becomes an act of worship itself, each name a note in a hymn of remembrance. For the Eternal delights in those who turn to Him, and the Messiah, the Chosen One, rejoices in the company of the righteous who are preserved. This is not a cold ceremony but a celebration of fidelity, a recognition that even the smallest acts of faith are precious enough to be written forever. The Book of Life carries with it a sense of safety, a promise that no enemy, no chaos, no shadow can erase what has been written by the eternal hand. The faithful are secure not because of their strength, but because of this record. Just as one clings to a promise whispered in love, so too do the faithful cling to the knowledge that their names are held in divine memory. This promise allows rest, even in troubled times, for the heart can say, "I am remembered. I am not lost." It is a thought as soft as a blanket, as steady as the stars that shine unceasingly overhead. There is also a gentle contrast in this vision, for while the righteous are preserved, the fate of the unrepentant is different. Their absence from the book is not described with cruelty, but with quiet finality. They are like words never written, lives that chose to remain apart. Yet the emphasis never lingers long on their absence. Instead, it turns again and again to the assurance that those who cling to faith are secured. This rhythm of contrast highlights the mercy and the care that defines the Messiah's role, reminding the soul that hope outweighs despair and remembrance triumphs over forgetting. The vision of the Book of Life invites the listener to slow down and breathe in the quiet majesty of divine remembrance. It is not a story of numbers or faceless records, but of lives cherished and preserved. Each name written is like a candle that never goes out, a flame kept alive in the presence of the Eternal. The Messiah, seated in glory, treasures this book not as an object, but as a reflection of the souls who belong to Him. And in that gentle truth lies the deepest comfort, that no act of faith, however small, is ever lost, and no righteous heart is ever forgotten. The vision of the Messiah stretches far beyond the boundaries of earth, rising into a realm where stars themselves seem to bow in reverence. He is not pictured merely as a ruler of lands, nor confined to a throne of gold beneath the sky, but as one whose authority flows outward to the very edges of creation. To call him a king is true, yet even the word king feels too small, for his reign is not like the reign of human monarchs. His crown is woven from light itself, his throne set upon foundations not of stone but of eternity, and his court reaches across the heavens where angels stand in attendance. This is the image of the Messiah as the cosmic king, the one whose sovereignty rests not in temporary power, but in unshakable dominion that spans the visible and invisible alike. To describe his kingdom is to step into the imagery of a heavenly court. Vast halls of light unfold, their pillars not carved from marble but formed from brilliance itself. Countless hosts of angels stand in harmony, their songs weaving into the air like threads of endless music. They are not subjects out of fear but attendants of joy, drawn to the radiance of the King, who commands not with force but with peace. His voice, when it speaks, carries like the flowing of rivers, reaching not only the court itself, but rippling outward into every corner of the cosmos. The entire order of creation listens, from the smallest breath of wind to the farthest star burning at the edge of the night. In his court, all things are ordered, all chaos subdued, not by chains or violence, but by the weight of his presence. It is a peaceful reign, unlike earthly kingdoms where battles and rivalries mark the passage of time. Human kings rise and fall, their empires built upon conquest, yet always crumbling into dust. The cosmic king, however, presides without need for conquest, for all things already belong to him. His authority does not depend on armies, nor does he sit uneasy upon his throne, waiting for threats. Instead, his rule is steady and calm, like the unbroken expanse of the sky. He is not merely a figure seated above creation. He is the harmony that keeps creation together. Just as the sun cannot be separated from its light, the universe cannot exist apart from his sustaining reign. In the visions of Enoch, the scale of his dominion is drawn in vast cosmic strokes. He governs not just nations, but the heavenly bodies themselves. The sun rises and sets by his decree. The stars are arranged and held in their courses by his will. The winds and seas obey his voice, as though even the natural elements recognize their true sovereign. To imagine this is to lift the heart into a perspective that dissolves earthly limits. The Messiah is not simply a king for one people, nor a ruler of one age, but a presence whose reign stretches across ages, dimensions, and realities. Every heartbeat, every moment of silence, every flicker of light owes its order to him. One can picture the courtroom of heaven where judgments are given, not with cruelty, but with perfect balance. The cosmic king sits enthroned, and before him stand the righteous, preserved in memory, while angels bear witness. Yet unlike earthly courts, there is no confusion, no corruption. Truth shines openly, justice flows like clear water, and mercy intertwines with judgment in perfect proportion. The Messiah, as cosmic king, is not simply a stern ruler, but a just and tender one, who upholds order while never losing sight of compassion. The court becomes a sanctuary, a place where creation itself finds its balance restored. The peace of his reign extends beyond what can be seen. It is a cosmic peace, a stillness that fills even the farthest reaches of existence. Imagine drifting among the stars, silent in the vastness of space, and yet sensing a steady rhythm that holds everything together. That rhythm is the reign of the Messiah. It is what keeps galaxies in their places, what ensures that time flows, what allows every creature to draw breath. His kingship is not distant, nor is it abstract. It is the living order of reality itself. To dwell upon this vision is to feel the smallness of human power and the greatness of his majesty, yet also to feel the comfort that comes from belonging to such a reign. The angels in Enoch's visions appear not as scattered beings, but as an organized host, attending the king with reverence. They move like living flames, their wings spreading wide, their voices echoing in songs of unending praise. They are the courtiers of this celestial monarchy, yet they do not seem bound by servitude. Rather, they overflow with joy to serve in the presence of the cosmic king. Their praise is like the atmosphere of heaven itself, surrounding him with ceaseless adoration. Each note of their song tells of his greatness, his wisdom, his unchanging rule, and yet, within that vastness, the Messiah's reign remains deeply personal, for he sees not only the angels in their multitude, but also each soul inscribed in the book of life, each life that turns toward him. The image of the cosmic king is also an image of stability in a shifting world. For those who live under earthly kings, fear and uncertainty are constant companions, as rulers may falter or fall. But under the reign of the Messiah, there is no fragility. His throne is everlasting, his crown unbreakable. He does not wither, nor does his reign dim with the passage of years. Even the heavens themselves, as vast as they are, may one day pass away, but his kingship endures beyond them. It is a thought that soothes the restless spirit, reminding it that amid all change and decay, there is one reign that remains unshaken. In contemplating his kingship, one cannot help but notice the contrast between the grand and the gentle. He rules stars and galaxies, yet he also notices the single prayer whispered in the dark. He commands the hosts of heaven, yet bends low to hear the cry of the humble. This blend of cosmic majesty and intimate care defines the uniqueness of his reign. The Messiah as cosmic king is not distant from those he rules. He is close, approachable, and tender, even while commanding the universe itself. It is this balance that fills the vision with such peace, for his power is not cold but warm, not oppressive but protective. When one imagines the cosmic scale of his dominion, the heart can rest in awe, but also in calm. For the stars may blaze, the galaxies may turn, the heavens may echo with angelic song, and yet through it all the Messiah reigns with untroubled authority. There is no rival to dethrone him, no chaos too vast for him to subdue. His kingship is not one among many, but the only true sovereignty. And in that eternal court where angels sing and light abounds, creation itself finds its rest under the gentle reign of the cosmic king. In the quiet unfolding of Enoch's visions, the story of the Messiah stretches into the heart of Israel, the chosen people, long marked by both promise and sorrow. They are seen in exile, scattered like dust across nations, their memory tied to covenants spoken ages before. Yet Enoch whispers of a time when these scattered souls would be gathered again, not by the might of armies, nor by the hand of earthly kings, but under the gentle and powerful reign of the Messiah. It is a vision not of sudden upheaval, but of careful restoration, as though broken branches are being lifted and grafted back into their living root. In this picture, the identity of Israel is not lost in the tides of history, but kept, preserved, and waiting to be renewed by the one who holds the fullness of divine authority. The restoration appears not merely as a return to land, but as a vindication of promise. The world may look upon Israel as a people forgotten, yet in Enoch's prophecy, they are remembered before the throne of heaven. The Messiah himself is portrayed as the shepherd who bends to gather each sheep, even those who have wandered far. Imagine the stillness of a twilight field, where the shepherd's voice calls, and the scattered flock begins to return, moving slowly but steadily, guided not by force, but by recognition. The people know the voice, even if time and distance had made them forget. The gathering is a reunion, not of strangers, but of kin returning to their own. Enoch's imagery paints this restoration in tones of calm beauty. There are no storms of conquest, no fiery destruction, but rather a serene and patient renewal. The land, once desolate, begins to bloom again, as though the soil itself had been waiting for the tread of its rightful people. Springs open, trees put forth their fruit, and the air is filled with the fragrance of peace. The Messiah does not simply restore Israel to a political position, he restores them to harmony with creation, with their calling, and with their God. The exile becomes a shadow of the past, while the future opens like a wide meadow bathed in morning light. The vindication of Israel also carries a gentle contrast to the arrogance of the nations that had mocked them. Where once kings had boasted over their downfall, believing them weak and abandoned, the Messiah reveals that weakness was not the end, but the beginning of a deeper strength. Their survival through centuries of trials becomes testimony that they were never forgotten. In the heavenly vision, their story is read aloud like a scroll kept safely in the courts above, where every tear, every exile, every cry was known. The gathering of Israel is thus not only the healing of a people, but the unveiling of divine faithfulness, as promises made in ages past find their long-awaited fulfillment. This restoration has the character of gentleness rather than conquest. Enoch's prophecy does not show the Messiah wielding a sword to force his people home. Instead, he leads them like a guide through quiet valleys. The scattered are brought together, not through fear, but through recognition, their hearts stirred by a memory deeper than words. It is as though within their very souls a song has been hidden, and when the Messiah calls, that song awakens, drawing them back to where they belong. The gathering is slow, steady, filled with patience, much like streams flowing from many directions until they meet and merge into a single, calm river. The picture also touches upon the healing of wounds that exile had left behind. The Messiah does not only gather the people physically, he restores their dignity, their hope, their covenant identity. Imagine faces weathered by generations of hardship, suddenly softened by the light of belonging. Those who had felt abandoned now feel the warmth of being chosen again. The shame of scattering is replaced with the honor of return. The world looks on, not with mockery, but with awe, seeing how what was once despised has been made whole. In this, the Messiah becomes the healer of histories, the one who rewrites sorrow into peace. The land itself is part of this restoration. In Enoch's dreamlike narration, the earth breathes again beneath the Messiah's reign. Vineyards stretch across hillsides, olive trees wave their branches in the breeze, and waters flow gently through valleys. It is a vision of harmony where land and people belong together, no longer divided by conquest or exile. The restoration is not a political event alone, but a cosmic reconciliation. Israel's return mirrors the renewal of creation itself, each part restored to its rightful place. The soil welcomes the people as much as the people rejoice to walk upon it, a reunion of earth and nation woven together by the hand of the Messiah. There is also a tone of vindication here, though spoken softly. Those who had oppressed, scattered, or mocked Israel find their boasts silenced, not by force, but by the quiet unfolding of divine justice. Their arrogance fades into the background as the Messiah lifts the humble and restores the lowly. It is not the crushing of enemies that Enoch emphasizes, but the quiet reversal of fortunes, where the proud are made small and the forgotten are remembered. Justice arrives like dawn, not in violent bursts, but in a slow, unstoppable brightness that fills the sky and cannot be resisted. And the vision carries an intimacy as well. The Messiah's relationship with Israel is not cold or distant, but tender, as though each person gathered is known by name. He bends to the weary, lifts up the broken, and assures them that they belong. This restoration is not simply about the collective, but about the individual who has wandered, the family who has endured, the soul who has hoped against hope. Each return is personal, and together they form a whole that shines with unity. The shepherd does not forget a single sheep, and so Israel's restoration is complete because no one is left outside. To hear this prophecy in a sleepy, calming narration is to let the heart rest in the image of gathering. One can almost imagine drifting to the sound of soft footsteps across grass, the steady voice of the shepherd calling, and the slow forming of a community once scattered. The stars above watch in silence, the land breathes in peace, and the people find their place again beneath the reign of the Messiah. It is not a hurried or frantic vision, but one of patience, serenity, and gentle inevitability. The chosen are gathered, the promises remembered, and the story of exile transformed into a story of homecoming, carried along by the quiet faithfulness of the King who restores. In Enoch's visions, there comes a moment when the horizon of prophecy stretches beyond the limits of earth, beyond the narrow bands of history, and into the wide, eternal expanse of a renewed creation. It is not simply the healing of a nation or the judgment of the wicked that fills these dreams, but the transformation of all things. The Messiah, who has been seen as light, as shepherd, as judge, as intercessor, now takes his place as the center of a new reality, the new heaven and the new earth. This vision unfolds with a sense of calm inevitability, like a dawn that no night can resist, bathing everything in the soft glow of eternal completion. The old world, marked by corruption, rebellion, and sorrow, fades into memory, like mist retreating before the morning sun. In its place rises a world unmarred by decay, a creation that reflects the original beauty with which it was made, now secured forever by the presence of the Messiah. Enoch describes a vision where rivers of light flow across the land, mountains shine with radiance, and the heavens themselves seem to sing. In this renewed cosmos, nothing is left broken. All wounds are bound, all divisions healed, and all darkness dissolved in the brilliance of everlasting peace. The Messiah's role in this transformation is not distant or symbolic, but deeply personal and active. He is not merely the overseer of this renewal, but its heartbeat, the one through whom creation is held together and made new. The stars shine in his authority, the rivers flow in his order, and every living being breathes in the harmony he establishes. Imagine a garden at rest after a long season of storm. Trees upright again, flowers open without fear of frost, waters calm without threat of flood. This is the tone of Enoch's vision, a world where creation itself breathes in rhythm with the will of its king. The renewal of the cosmos carries with it the end of sorrow. No voice of weeping rises in this world. The cries of the oppressed, the laments of the forgotten, the groans of the earth itself, these have been silenced, not by suppression, but because they are no longer needed. Their cause has been removed, their pain healed, their memory dissolved in comfort. The Messiah ushers in not just an absence of pain, but the presence of perfect joy, a joy that fills and overflows, soft and unbroken. The people of this renewed world walk in light without shadow, rest without fear, and love without loss. Enoch's prophecy conveys this picture with serene imagery, portraying the Messiah as the axis of harmony. The heavens are no longer at odds with the earth, nor are angels divided from humanity. The fracture that once cut across creation, the rebellion of angels, the pride of kings, the corruption of flesh, is closed forever. The Messiah's reign binds heaven and earth into one seamless whole. The stars bow in quiet reverence, the skies shine without end, and the earth blossoms in endless renewal. The story of conflict gives way to the story of peace, the kind of peace that is not fragile but eternal, anchored in divine authority. The imagery of this new world is described with layers of beauty. Rivers that once carried destruction now flow with living water. Trees that once bore fruit only to wither now stand evergreen, bearing fruit in season without end. The air is pure, the skies unbroken, and the ground untainted. Creation reflects the order of its maker, no longer groaning but rejoicing. It is as though every part of existence has found its true voice again, singing softly in harmony with the Messiah who rules in love. There is no rush in this vision, only the steady unfolding of perfection, like the petals of a flower opening beneath gentle light. The people within this renewed creation are at rest, not merely surviving, but dwelling in abundance. They live without fear of oppression, without the shadow of death, without the anxiety of loss. Their homes are secure, their communities whole, their hearts filled with the calm certainty that nothing can disturb this peace. The Messiah walks among them, not as a distant monarch, but as the center of their joy. His presence, the assurance that the world will never again slip into chaos. To be near him is to be at home, to belong, to rest. The vision carries a lullaby-like quality, soothing the imagination with the thought of safety that cannot be undone. The new heaven and earth also hold a sense of completion, of promises fulfilled, and journeys brought to rest. From the earliest days of creation, when the world first fell into ruin, the hope of restoration has lingered. Prophets spoke of it, the righteous longed for it, and even creation itself groaned for it. In Enoch's vision, that hope is no longer distant. It is realized in the reign of the Messiah, who gathers the fragments of the old world and reshapes them into something eternal. This is not a temporary repair, but a final renewal, a world made whole forever. The sense of waiting disappears, replaced with the comfort of arrival. The throne of the Messiah in this renewed cosmos is described not as a seat of cold authority, but as a fountain of life. From his presence flows light, from his word flows peace, from his hand flows abundance. The nations gather, not in fear of judgment, but in joy of belonging, and their diversity becomes harmony rather than division. Every people, every tongue, every tribe finds its place, woven into the fabric of the new creation, none excluded, none forgotten. The Messiah presides not as a distant ruler, but as the source of all joy, his reign the song that holds the universe together. There is an eternal rhythm to this vision, as though time itself has been soothed. No more hurried seasons, no more fleeting joys, no more sudden ends. Instead, Eternity stretches calmly forward, each moment full yet never exhausting. The people of this world live not in cycles of loss and gain, but in the constancy of peace. It is as though creation has finally taken a deep breath and holds it, not in tension, but in restful stillness. The Messiah's role here is to sustain, to keep, to ensure that this peace is never broken, that the story of sorrow is never told again. As Enoch's prophecy drifts into this vision, the tone becomes one of quiet reassurance. There is no turmoil, no uncertainty, only the soft certainty of completion. The old has passed away, the new has come, never to fade. The Messiah stands as the eternal bridge between God and creation, the light in which all things live, the heart in which all things rest. The new heaven and earth are not merely a dream. They are the fulfillment of every whisper, every longing, every promise, brought gently and firmly into reality by the one who reigns forever in peace. The visions of Enoch linger long on a theme that might seem small in the eyes of the world, yet in the gaze of heaven it shines brighter than crowns and empires. Again and again, the Messiah is seen not walking among palaces of the proud, but among the huts and tents of the lowly. His favor is not bent toward the ones who have gathered wealth and power, but toward the meek, the quiet, the ones whose voices were drowned by louder mouths. The prophecy whispers that in the kingdom of the Messiah, those who have been pressed down will be lifted up, and those who have been ignored will be remembered. There is a steady tenderness in this vision. The poor are not pitied from afar, nor are they token figures in some distant drama. Instead, they are shown as the very ones with whom the Messiah stands. He shares in their burdens, walks among their struggles, and gives them the dignity the world denied them. When rulers cast them aside, when markets consumed their labor without care for their hunger, when armies trampled their small fields, the Messiah looked upon them with compassion. In the prophecies, it is their names that he carries, their tears that he dries, their wounds that he heals. The justice of this vision is quiet, not loud or boastful. It unfolds like a balance long tilted being set right again. Imagine a scale weighted heavily in one direction by greed and oppression. For generations it leans that way, bending under the weight of those who exploit. But in Enoch's vision, the Messiah's hand gently presses on the other side, lifting the poor and placing them in a position of honor. It is not vengeance that moves him, but love. Not noise, but a deep stillness that restores dignity to the ones who never expected to find it. Enoch speaks of kings and rulers trembling before the Messiah, yet in the same breath, he speaks of the poor sitting secure under his shelter. Where the mighty are judged, the humble are comforted. This reversal has a soothing rhythm to it, like the turning of a tide that slowly but surely comes to wash away footprints of cruelty and leave behind a clean shore. Those who had little find themselves at rest. Those who were last find themselves gathered first. Those whose voices went unheard find themselves sung into eternal remembrance. One can picture the Messiah walking through a village of the forgotten, not in grandeur, but in simplicity. He stoops to greet a widow who was cast aside, and she feels seen. He lifts the head of an orphan who feared he was invisible, and the child feels known. He touches the calloused hands of a worker who toiled without reward, and the man feels valued. In every face, he finds beauty, and in every story, he offers hope. The poor, who once felt the weight of a world against them, discover in him an unshakable ally. The calm strength of this vision rests in the way it values what the world does not. Where kings sought monuments of stone, the Messiah treasures the hidden kindness of a poor man who shared his bread. Where rulers demanded loyalty through fear, the Messiah honors the faith of a woman who prayed in secret though her belly was empty. In Enoch's prophecy, it is clear that heaven counts differently than earth. Wealth does not buy favor. Titles do not earn respect, and armies do not secure eternity. Instead, the scale tips toward those who trusted, who endured, who loved quietly, even when unseen. The empathy of the Messiah is not shallow. It is not simply that he gives gifts to the needy, but that he takes their place. He identifies with their hunger, their sorrow, their vulnerability. He is not ashamed to be called their companion. In the cosmic story, this detail matters. The one who shines with glory does not distance himself from dust-covered faces. Instead, he claims them, calls them his, and promises them rest. This is not only justice but intimacy, the kind that allows the lowest to look upon him without fear. Enoch's visions of this justice are filled with a gentle certainty. The forgotten are not merely remembered for a moment and then left again. They are gathered into an eternal care, a care that does not waver. They are not tokens of pity, but heirs of the kingdom. Their hunger is met not just with bread, but with feasts that never end. Their thirst is quenched not only by water, but by living streams that never run dry. Their vulnerability is answered not with fleeting safety, but with everlasting shelter. The humility of the poor is described as a treasure in these prophecies. It is their lack of arrogance, their willingness to trust, their endurance under trial that makes them precious. The Messiah, who sees beyond appearances, treasures these qualities far more than crowns and jewels. To him, a humble heart is worth more than a nation's wealth. In his world, to be small is to be great. To be overlooked is to be chosen. To be weak is to be made strong. This reversal of values gives comfort to every soul that has ever felt unseen. Imagine a quiet field under the soft glow of evening, where those who once labored without reward now sit in peace, sharing in abundance. The Messiah is there among them, not as a distant ruler, but as one seated at their table. He listens to their stories, wipes away the memory of their pain, and assures them that their place is secure forever. This is not a fleeting vision, but an eternal reality, where the righteous poor no longer fear being cast aside. The world that once trampled them cannot reach into this place, for here the Messiah guards them. The empathy woven into this prophecy has a lullaby-like quality. It does not roar like thunder or blaze like fire. It soothes like a gentle hand on a weary brow. The poor who once lay awake in worry now rest without fear. The child who once cried for bread now laughs without hunger. The worker who once staggered under the weight of labor now walks in freedom. Each image carries with it the steady reassurance that in the reign of the Messiah, no one is forgotten, no one is invisible, no one is too small to be cherished. The prophecy's calm power lies in its reminder that true greatness is measured not by how many one rules, but by how deeply one loves. The Messiah does not simply rule from afar, but bends low to lift the humble. The forgotten find in him an everlasting friend. The meek find in him a strong protector, and the poor find in him the wealth of eternal belonging. Enoch's visions unfold like a quiet promise that in the world to come, those who suffered in silence will sing, those who bore burdens will dance in freedom, and those who were last will walk in the light of the first place at his side. Death has always cast a shadow across human life, an inevitable boundary that no king, no prophet, no wise man has ever been able to cross. It lingers at the edge of every story, marking an end where dreams, voices, and breaths are silenced. Yet within the ancient visions, there emerges a figure who steps beyond that shadow, who does not bow to mortality but stands above it, holding a promise that death itself will not be the final word. The Messiah in Enoch's visions is not only one who brings justice and peace, but one who carries within his being the power to unmake the hold of death, to transform what all creation fears into a gateway of life without end. This role is not spoken of in loud triumph, but in a quiet certainty, as though the very fabric of existence has already shifted, as though death has already been defeated in the silence of eternity. When Enoch described the coming days of restoration, he painted a world where graves no longer held sway, where the righteous were not forgotten in the dust, and where even the terror of finality dissolved like mist under the rising sun. The Messiah's victory over death was not simply for himself, but for all who placed their trust in him. Unlike rulers who fought wars only to preserve their own power, this king descended into the valley of shadows to bring others out. The faithful, once wearied by the limits of life, could now imagine a dawn that did not fade, a breath that did not falter, and a joy that could not be taken away. Death had once been a great divider, separating soul from body, friend from friend, hope from fulfillment. But in the light of the Messiah, the divider became a bridge. The imagery that often surrounded these promises was gentle, not violent. Instead of war against death, Enoch spoke of renewal, of gardens blossoming again, of waters flowing clear, of ancient groves standing tall after long winters. The Messiah's triumph was pictured less as a battle won with swords, and more as a breath of life that filled every corner of creation. Where graves had claimed dominion, flowers would grow. Where tears had watered the earth, streams of gladness would rise. It was as though death was undone not by force, but by presence, a holy nearness that remade what had fallen apart. The righteous were not only remembered but restored, their stories continuing where they had left off, with no fear of interruption. Mortality had always humbled humanity. People knew that no matter how high they rose or how many stones bore their names, time would wear everything down. Yet in Enoch's vision, the Messiah's reign overturned that humbling end with a gentler humility, the kind that came not from fear of death but from awe at eternal life. Those who once trembled at the thought of being forgotten could now rest in the assurance that their names were written in unfading records. Every righteous soul, every humble heart, every forgotten wanderer had a place in the everlasting memory of God, carried by the Messiah himself into the unending ages. This vision of eternal life was not an escape from the earth, but a renewal of it. It was not about spirits floating aimlessly in the heavens, but about bodies raised to new strength, lands healed of corruption, and people walking once again in harmony. The Messiah's victory over death was as wide as creation itself, touching soil and sky, seas and stars. Mortality was not only lifted from the righteous, but from the very fabric of the cosmos. Seasons that once marched toward decay would now sing in unbroken cycles of beauty. The fading of life would no longer be the pattern of existence. Instead, flourishing without end would take its place. The hope of eternal life also reshaped how people faced their days. In the face of injustice, they could endure, knowing that death was not the thief it once appeared to be. Even if their lives were cut short by cruelty, they were not lost. In the hands of the Messiah, their souls rested safe, awaiting a dawn when they would rise with songs of joy. The power of oppressors, who thought to silence them with death, was revealed as hollow, for the Messiah held the keys to life beyond their reach. To the poor, the afflicted, the forgotten, this promise was not abstract. It was comfort, a quiet assurance that nothing endured in vain. Enoch's vision whispered that the Messiah would not only conquer death in some distant age, but carried that victory already within himself. His presence was life, his words were breath, his authority was renewal. To draw near to him was to feel mortality itself loosen its grip, to sense that even now eternity had brushed close. The faithful lived as though already part of that future, walking with courage not because they denied death, but because they believed it was no longer the end. Their funerals were filled with both tears and quiet songs of hope. for they trusted that their loved ones rested not in silence, but in the keeping of the one who had promised life everlasting. The stillness of Enoch's writing carries a calming rhythm here, almost like a lullaby against the fears that often haunt the human heart. He speaks not of flames or thunder in this vision, but of soft light, green meadows, and restful peace. The Messiah's triumph over death was not meant to terrify but to reassure, not to stir fear, but to settle it. It was the sound of mortality dissolving into eternity, like waves fading into the embrace of a vast and endless sea. Those who once feared the last breath could now close their eyes with trust, knowing that the Messiah's hand would guide them into a dawn that had no dusk. And so the figure who stood above kings and judges, who brought justice to nations and peace to creation, also carried the deepest victory, the triumph over death itself. This victory was not written in monuments or carved into stone, but whispered into hearts, carried in visions, and held in faith. It was a promise that no grave could silence, no time could erode, and no power could undo. The Messiah's victory was the quiet undoing of fear, the gentle unfolding of eternity, the everlasting assurance that life does not end but is remade, whole and unbroken, in His keeping. The kings of old filled the earth with their presence, their names etched into stones and echoed through the corridors of history. They sat upon gilded thrones, their voices carried across empires by heralds, their armies marching in step with their commands. Their crowns gleamed with jewels, their palaces rose higher than the homes of common men, and their decrees were carved into clay and stone so they would not be forgotten. Yet for all their might, their reigns were bound by the same limits as every mortal life. Their strength faded, their monuments crumbled, and their legacies often ended in silence. Against this backdrop of earthly kings, the figure of the Messiah stands in quiet contrast, not dazzling the world with the trappings of power, but radiating a deeper strength that does not fade. Where kings gathered their authority through conquest and wealth, the Messiah was chosen not for outward displays of might, but for His closeness to the Most High. Worldly rulers ruled by fear, their swords and armies bending nations to their will, but the Son of Man carried an authority that was not imposed, but received. His power was not fragile like the shifting loyalties of men or the brittle peace of treaties. It was rooted in eternity, unshaken and serene. He did not need monuments to speak of His reign, for creation itself bore witness to His authority. The stars that kings once claimed as omens bent instead to His story, and the very earth He would renew was His enduring testimony. The contrast becomes even clearer when considering the nature of their rule. Kings often elevated themselves above their people, cloaked in robes that set them apart, seated in palaces unreachable by the Kogyat, Memmon's soul. They thrived on distance, believing separation proved their divinity. The Messiah, however, drew near to the humble and the forgotten, lifting them rather than elevating Himself above them. His crown was not of gold, but of eternal promise, His throne not hidden in marble halls, but in the presence of the Almighty. Where kings demanded service, He offered intercession. Where they demanded tribute, He gave mercy. His greatness was not in taking, but in giving, a quiet reversal of the order men had grown accustomed to. Enoch's vision highlighted this contrast not with sharp rebuke, but with gentle observation. Kings of the earth would boast of their victories, their monuments built to outlast the generations, yet even their bones would return to dust. The Son of Man, clothed in light, did not need stone to carry His memory. His reign would not decay, nor would His authority be forgotten. The proud crowns of men would eventually be handed to others or cast aside in defeat, but His was eternal, untouched by time or rivalry. The frailty of worldly thrones became clear when placed beside the unshakable seat of the Messiah, whose dominion stretched beyond lands and seas, reaching into the fabric of heaven itself. Ancient kings often ruled through arrogance, believing themselves divine or appointed by gods of their own imagining. They saw themselves as the center of history, their decisions shaping destinies and their legacies meant to endure forever. Yet their arrogance was always short-lived. Kingdoms fractured, dynasties fell, and the people they once oppressed found new rulers to follow. The Messiah's rule, however, was not shaped by arrogance but by humility. He did not cling to his place in eternity to elevate himself above others, but embraced the role of shepherd, walking among his flock, guiding with patience and protecting with tenderness. His humility was no to weakness but strength, the kind that drew souls to him not by force but by love. The imagery of quiet strength runs like a thread through the contrast. Kings roared with their armies, their power measured in weapons and wealth. The Son of Man's strength, however, was like still waters, calm, unwavering, yet carrying depths that no storm could overcome. His silence spoke more than the shouts of generals. His gentleness revealed more authority than any conquest. Where kings sought to be feared, he brought comfort. Where they built walls to secure their thrones, he opened paths for the faithful to approach. His reign was not a trembling grasp on fleeting authority, but a peaceful certainty that no enemy could threaten. Enoch also presented the Messiah as one whose authority did not end at borders. Kings of old could claim dominion only as far as their armies could march or their banners could be planted. Beyond their reach, other rulers rose, equally fragile in their might. The Messiah, however, reigned over all creation, his dominion stretching beyond nations, beyond time, beyond even the shadow of death itself. His was not a throne set in one city, but a seat established in the heavens, his court not filled with scheming advisors, but with radiant beings who reflected his light. His kingship did not depend on conquest or inheritance, but on divine appointment, chosen before the foundations of the earth. Even the imagery of judgment reveals this contrast. Earthly kings judged through laws often bent to serve themselves, punishing those who opposed them while excusing their own failings. Their courts could be bought with wealth or manipulated by power. The Messiah's judgment, however, was pure, unshaken by bias, untainted by greed. He judged with clarity, discerning every heart without error. The quiet justice of the Son of Man stood in stark contrast to the corruption of earthly thrones, bringing not fear but peace, for the righteous knew his verdicts true. His justice was not a tool to preserve power, but an outpouring of truth, setting all things right without the clamor of worldly courts. The relationship between king and people also bore striking differences. For earthly rulers, loyalty was demanded, often enforced with punishments for disobedience. Citizens served because they feared the consequences of defiance. The Messiah's followers, by contrast, were drawn not by fear, but by devotion. Their loyalty was rooted in love, in the assurance that his reign was for their good and their flourishing. They trusted him not because they were forced to, but because they found in him the shepherd who gave life to his flock. This gentle bond outshone the brittle loyalties of empires, creating a unity that could not be broken by time or death. Enoch's vision gave comfort in this comparison, for it reminded the weary that no matter how mighty kings of the earth appeared, their reigns were but shadows beside the eternal light of the Son of Man. Palaces would crumble, crowns would tarnish, and armies would scatter, but the Messiah's reign would endure without end. His strength was not loud but lasting, not fragile but eternal. In him the faithful found assurance that no worldly power could overshadow the quiet majesty of the one chosen to reign forever. The vision of a kingdom without end begins softly, like a whisper drifting through time, echoing in the hearts of those who long for peace. Unlike the fleeting kingdoms of men that rise in glory and fall in ruin, this kingdom stretches beyond every horizon, untouched by decay, untouched by the cycles of power that define history. It does not tremble with the threat of invasion or weaken under the passage of years. It stands eternal, a place where light never fades and where justice flows as naturally as rivers through a valley. In Enoch's prophecy, this kingdom belongs to the Messiah, whose reign is not measured in centuries or dynasties, but in endless ages, a golden thread woven into the fabric of creation. This eternal kingdom is described not as a cold empire, but as a dwelling of peace, a sanctuary where the weary find rest. The sound of war, which once shook the earth under the feet of men, is silenced forever. There are no banners of conquest, no cries of rebellion, only the quiet hum of harmony. The imagery is gentle, yet it carries a weight of permanence that no earthly rule could ever secure. In this golden age, the righteous do not live in fear of losing what they have been given, for nothing in this kingdom can be stolen or destroyed. It is not merely a reign of authority, but a home of assurance, where every soul belongs and every tear is dried. Enoch's words paint the kingdom as a place where righteousness is not an ideal to be pursued, but the very air that is breathed. It surrounds everything, shaping the lives of those who dwell within it. Unlike worldly governments that fail to deliver true justice, this kingdom is built upon it. The king himself, the Messiah, sits upon the throne not as a distant ruler but as a shepherd who knows his people. His authority is gentle, yet it binds all creation in order and harmony. The meek are lifted up, the humble find their honor, and those who walked in faith are clothed in light. The kingdom has no end because it is rooted in eternity, its foundations unshaken by the storms of time. The Golden Age is often described in terms of beauty, and Enoch's vision is no exception. Gardens flourish with trees that never wither, rivers sparkle with living waters that flow endlessly, and the light of the Messiah fills every corner with warmth. No shadow threatens its peace. No night steals away its joy. The imagery is serene, inviting the listener to imagine walking through meadows where every step is steady, where the breeze carries the fragrance of blossoms untouched by decay. It is not a kingdom of walls and fortresses, but one of open fields and radiant skies, a place where fear cannot dwell and sorrow cannot linger. What makes this kingdom eternal is not merely its longevity, but its nature. Earthly rulers have tried to build lasting legacies, but their structures crumble, their laws fade, and their people scatter. The Messiah's kingdom, however, endures because it flows from the very heart of God. It does not depend on human strength or ambition, but on divine promise. It is eternal because it was established before creation itself and will remain when time itself has ceased. The reign of the Son of Man is the very expression of the Most High's will, an unbroken line of peace that cannot be fractured by rebellion or decay. Within this kingdom, unity reigns. The scattered faithful, gathered from every land and generation, stand together in a harmony that was only dreamt of on earth. Nations no longer rise against one another, for in this eternal home there are no borders to divide, no rivalries to sustain. The Messiah's reign dissolves every barrier, bringing together people as one flock under one shepherd. Each voice joins in the same song, a hymn of quiet joy that fills the air like a soft river's current. It is not a forced unity, but one born of love, the kind that grows naturally when all are embraced by the same eternal light. This golden age is not marked by grand ceremonies or battles won, but by stillness and rest. The people of the kingdom do not struggle to survive, nor do they labor under the burdens of injustice or fear. Instead, they live in the ease of peace, their hearts untroubled, their days unending in serenity. The eternal kingdom is a Sabbath without end, a holy rest where creation itself is healed. The earth, once scarred by war and sorrow, breathes freely under the reign of the Messiah. Mountains and valleys, rivers and skies all share in this restoration, as though this entire cosmos has been renewed to reflect the beauty of its king. The eternal nature of this kingdom also speaks of safety. No enemy lurks beyond its borders, for there are no enemies left to threaten. The forces of rebellion, once so fierce in their defiance, have been silenced by judgment. The oppressors, once proud in their power, have been humbled. The fallen ones who sought to twist creation have no place within this light. All that remains is the calm certainty that nothing can disturb what has been established. The people rest not because of walls or armies, but because the King himself guards them with his presence, a protection stronger than any fortress built by men. The Son of Man's reign does not merely extend over people, but over time itself. Past, present, and future are held in his hands, woven into the endless tapestry of his kingdom. Unlike the reigns of mortal kings that are bound by succession and threatened by decay, his reign is timeless, stretching without boundary. Generations do not fade away in fear of being forgotten, for each soul is preserved in the memory of the King. This eternal embrace ensures that every act of faith, every moment of devotion, carries weight that cannot be lost. The Golden Age is not fleeting but ever deepening, each day as radiant as the first, each moment eternal in its fullness. Enoch's vision lingers on this picture of endless reign as if inviting weary hearts to rest in its promise. The Golden Age is not a dream that fades with waking, but a certainty that anchors the faithful. It unfolds like a lullaby for the soul, reassuring that all struggles and sorrows will one day dissolve into the peace of the eternal kingdom. Where once the world trembled under the weight of impermanent thrones, here is a reign that will never falter, a kingdom where light and life are unending, and where the Messiah's presence is the everlasting dawn that never gives way to night. The vision of the Messiah H does not only concern the earth and its people, but also stretches into the heights of heaven itself, where countless beings of light gather before the throne of the Most High. In the writings attributed to Enoch, the Messiah is portrayed as the one who holds authority not only over nations and kings, but even over the angels themselves. These celestial beings, radiant and powerful beyond human comprehension, bow before the Chosen One, acknowledging his place of honor. The image is serene, not marked by strife or rebellion, but by harmony, as though the heavens themselves find their order under his presence. In Enoch's descriptions, the angels are not diminished by this authority, but perfected through it. They stand as ministers of the divine court, their roles aligned with the will of the Son of Man. The archangels, mighty in their strength, are depicted as attendants of his throne, carrying out the decrees of judgment and mercy that proceed from him. Cherubim and seraphim, who once guarded the holiness of God's dwelling, now reflect their light through him, recognizing that his glory is one with the Most High. It is not the image of a ruler forcing allegiance, but of a kingdom where even the greatest beings delight in service, their wings and voices lifting in quiet unison before the eternal King. The scene carries with it a calm majesty, a picture of the heavens arranged in perfect order. The stars themselves, often thought of as angelic hosts, appear as though standing watch under his reign, their steady light reflecting the eternal authority of the Messiah. The heavenly court does not waver, nor is it divided, for the presence of the Son of Man brings peace that extends even into the realm of those beings who move faster than thought and shine brighter than fire. Their power, though vast, is harmonized under his hand, like instruments tuned into a single melody. Enoch's visions often highlight the contrasts between rebellion and obedience among the angels. Some, as the stories tell, chose long ago to defy the order of heaven, abandoning their place and falling into judgment. Yet, in the Messiah's presence, there is no shadow of such defiance. Those who remain in the holy courts stand with unwavering devotion, their loyalty sealed by the authority of the one seated upon the throne of glory. The Messiah is not only Lord over men, but also the point of unity for all creation, both seen and unseen. His rule is vast enough to encompass the smallest sparrow and the mightiest seraph alike. The serenity of this picture is striking. The angels, often portrayed as fierce warriors or messengers of awe, are here described in their gentleness, their voices blending like a quiet choir that carries through the endless heavens. They do not compete for honor, nor do they clash in pride, but rest in the certainty that the Son of Man governs with wisdom beyond measure. His authority among them is not questioned, for it is woven into the very fabric of their existence. As creatures of light, they reflect the source of light, and the Messiah stands at its center, radiant with the glory of the Most High. Imagine a hall vast beyond comprehension, where angels stand in endless ranks stretching beyond sight. Each one is unique, a reflection of the infinite creativity of God, yet all share in the same purpose, to serve and to praise. At the heart of it sits the throne, upon which the Son of Man reigns, clothed in splendor that surpasses even the brilliance of the hosts before him. Rivers of fire may flow, songs of holiness may rise, but above all rests the quiet stillness of harmony. The angels are not merely servants, they are companions in the eternal order, finding joy in the role they were created for. The authority of the Messiah among the angels also speaks of his place as mediator. In Enoch's writings, he is described as the one who intercedes not only for humankind, but as the central figure through whom even heavenly beings align their will with God's. Just as the righteous on earth look to him as a shepherd, so too do the angels look to him as the standard of obedience and devotion. His reign bridges every realm, uniting what is above with what is below. In this way, he becomes the harmony of the cosmos, the binding presence that draws together heaven and earth, angels and men, into a single household of peace. This imagery carries with it a sense of reassurance for those who hear it. If even the angels, mighty and resplendent as they are, yield to the authority of the Messiah, how much more secure must his reign be over the fragile lives of humankind? The faithful can rest knowing that their king is not merely one among many, but the one before whom all bow. The heavenly beings who have witnessed creation unfold and who dwell beyond the reach of time find no greater honor than to serve him. Their obedience becomes a reflection of the perfect order that the Messiah brings, an order that will one day encompass all of creation. Enoch's visions seem to linger on this point, as though to remind weary hearts that there is no power, visible or invisible, that stands beyond the Messiah's rule. The fallen ones who once rebelled serve as a contrast, their judgment a solemn warning, while the faithful angels shine as reminders of harmony. The Son of Man holds authority over both, his word sealing destinies and his presence bringing peace. Even in the grandeur of the heavenly courts, his reign is tender, filled with the calm assurance of eternal stability. To picture this is to imagine heaven itself at rest. No strife mars the golden halls, no fear troubles the radiant hosts. The angels bow, not out of compulsion, but out of love and recognition of the one who reigns with justice and mercy. Their harmony is a reflection of the eternal kingdom itself, unbroken, serene, and everlasting. The authority of the Messiah among the angels becomes the model of perfect order, a glimpse into the beauty of a creation restored, where every voice, from the smallest human prayer to the thunderous songs of seraphim, rises together in one endless hymn of peace. The vision of the Last Judgment, when told through the gentle and steady rhythm of Enoch's writings, carries a gravity that is softened by the assurance of fairness. The Messiah is placed at the very heart of this moment, not as a distant overseer, but as the one who brings order to the final unraveling of history. In the stillness of that day, when every hidden deed is uncovered, there is no chaos, no frantic storm, only the calm procession of truth being revealed. The Messiah's role is not harsh, but deeply just, bringing clarity to what has long been clouded. Every voice, every soul, every memory drifts into the presence of the Son of Man, and nothing remains hidden. This unfolding is not rushed. It carries the timelessness of eternity, where each soul finds its place according to the measure of light within it. Those who have long carried burdens of sorrow, injustice, and pain are gently lifted as their lives are weighed. The Messiah does not judge with the cold detachment of earthly rulers, but with eyes that see into the depth of a person's story. In this serene vision, the poor who were forgotten, the humble who lived unseen, the faithful who clung to goodness even in silence, all are honored. Their lives are not lost in the vastness but shine with a brilliance that had been looked on earth. The Messiah seated in radiant stillness acknowledges them, and in that acknowledgement, centuries of pain dissolve. It is not a judgment of fear, but of release, as if the world has been holding its breath for ages and now finally exhales. The wicked, too, are brought forward, though not in the way human courts parade the condemned. There is no shouting, no cruelty, only the gentle inevitability of truth standing uncovered. The mighty who built their power on the suffering of others, those who twisted justice, the proud who mocked the humble, all are faced with the reality they once denied. The Messiah does not raise his voice, for none is needed. The weight of his silence speaks more powerfully than 1,000 accusations. The truth itself becomes their mirror, and what they see can no longer be escaped. The separation of light and darkness, of righteousness and corruption, takes place not with violence, but with a quiet firmness, as natural as night giving way to dawn. In the writings of Enoch, this moment is painted in images of heavenly books being opened. The records of every soul, the hidden details of every act, are not written in ink but woven into the memory of creation itself. Nothing has been lost. Not a single act of kindness forgotten. Not a single act of cruelty erased. When the books are read, it is not with the cold indifference of a scribe, but with the warmth of remembrance, as though the Messiah himself tenderly lifts each page and breathes life back into forgotten moments. For the righteous, these records are not accusations, but songs of affirmation. For the wicked, they are the undeniable truth. Yet in all of it, the tone is calm, unhurried, as though eternity has all the time it needs to set things right. The angels stand in reverent silence as this scene unfolds. They are not restless but serene, for they too have awaited this moment when all creation is aligned under the just hand of the Messiah. Some stand at the gates, some carry the light of the throne, and others watch in quiet devotion as judgment flows like a river from the throne of glory. Their presence reminds every soul that this is no ordinary reckoning, but the fulfillment of an ancient promise. The universe itself bears witness, the stars shimmering like countless eyes as heaven and earth converge in this moment of final justice. Even the earth, weary from centuries of bloodshed and sorrow, seems to find rest in this unfolding. The mountains, the seas, the valleys, they too release their memories. The cries of the oppressed, the hidden acts of kindness, the unspoken griefs, all rise up, carried into the presence of the Messiah. Creation itself becomes a participant in the judgment, testifying without words, its testimony flowing in the gentle harmony of nature set free. The Messiah listens not only to human voices, but to the silent witness of the earth, acknowledging that all of creation has suffered under the weight of corruption. The imagery of fire, often feared in visions of judgment, is presented not as destruction, but as refinement. The fire of the Messiah's presence burns away deception and leaves only what is true. For some, that truth is radiant and joyful. For others, it is unbearable. But even in this, the tone remains one of peace. There is no chaos, no frenzy, only the steady unveiling of what has always been. The fire consumes falsehood, leaving behind the pure essence of each soul. It is a cleansing, not a cruelty, a final renewal that strips away the shadows of time. And as this cosmic trial proceeds, there is a deep sense of balance. No one is overlooked, no one silenced. Every tear is anted, every injustice remembered, every act of love cherished. The Messiah's role is to hold all of this within his authority, ensuring that nothing is forgotten and nothing misplaced. His justice is not the cold blade of punishment, but the careful setting of all things in their rightful place. For some, this means restoration. For others, it means the recognition of the darkness they embraced. In both, there is truth, and in that truth, peace is finally possible. The righteous are gathered into the light, their faces serene, their hearts free. They find themselves at home in the presence of the one they had longed for, without fully knowing. Their joy is quiet but unshakable, the kind of joy that does not shout but rests like a steady flame. For them, the last judgment is not the end but the beginning, the doorway into a peace that will never be disturbed. They enter into the harmony of eternity, where their lives are interwoven with the divine presence forever. The wicked, meanwhile, drift away into the shadows of their own making. They are not dragged, but simply cannot remain in the presence of the radiant truth. Their judgment is not imposed, but revealed, their exile the natural consequence of what they chose. Even this is done in silence, without cruelty, as though the universe itself gently guides them into the place that reflects what they became. The separation of light and darkness is complete, and with it, the story of history reaches its fulfillment. The Messiah, seated in stillness, watches as creation settles into its final order. His role in this climactic vision is not only to judge, but to bring the long journey of the world into its destined peace. Every soul has been seen, every act accounted for, every sorrow answered. What remains is harmony, and in that harmony the universe rests. Enoch's visions, recorded across centuries and preserved in quiet whispers outside the mainstream canon, reach their fullness as one contemplates the Messiah revealed in all his glory. The prophecies, once mysterious and veiled, now unfold like a tapestry of light and calm, connecting every hint, every prelude, to the ultimate revelation. It is as if the heavens themselves had orchestrated a story, patient and unhurried, allowing the faithful to see only fragments until the appointed time. In the gentle rhythm of Enoch's words, the figure of the Son of Man stands clear, not as a distant abstract, but as a presence who walks among the righteous, who judges with justice, who renews creation, and who gathers the faithful into eternal light. The quiet beauty of this revelation is profound. It is not violent, not abrupt, but flowing, like soft rivers of peace meandering through the hills of eternity. From the earliest glimpses of pre-existence to the climactic visions of judgment, the Messiah's identity becomes increasingly tangible. The Son of Man, the Elect One, the Righteous One, each title once mysterious, now resonates with meaning. In Enoch's writings, these names are not simply labels, but reflections of character and purpose, each echoing his roles as shepherd, judge, king, and mediator. The calm majesty of his presence, hovering above the cosmic order, assures the faithful that all things are aligned, that creation itself finds rest in him. In imagining the unfolding of these prophecies, one can sense the tender care of God, the deliberate unfolding of a plan that spans beyond time, encompassing both heaven and earth. The gentle imagery throughout the Book of Enoch reinforces this sense of serenity. Rivers of living waters, gardens that never fade, radiant thrones, and angelic hosts form a backdrop for the Messiah's work. These images are not intended to startle, but to soothe, to allow the listener or reader to imagine a universe where justice is absolute, mercy flows freely, and peace is unbroken. Even the moments of judgment, which could appear terrifying in other accounts, are presented here with soft inevitability. The righteous find recognition and rest, while the unrepentant are separated in calm accordance with truth. It is a cosmic order that brings reassurance, a lullaby of divine planning that eases the mind into trust. Every detail of Enoch's visions contributes to this sense of completeness. The Messiah is both judge and intercessor, authority and guide, light in darkness and source of eternal life. The faithful are gathered under his care, their lives and deeds acknowledged and preserved, while the cosmos itself seems to bend toward the harmony he ensures. Even the angels, in their perfect devotion, reflect the quiet majesty of his authority. their loyalty not forced but chosen, flowing naturally from recognition of his place in the divine order. The imagery is immersive, allowing one to feel as if standing on the threshold of heaven, witnessing the unfolding of purpose that has been centuries in the making. As the prophecies converge, the connection to Christ becomes evident. The figure Enoch describes, the Son of Man, the bringer of justice, the shepherd of souls, is recognized in the fullness of history and faith as Jesus. The threads of vision and reality weave together, forming a tapestry that bridges the ancient and the present, prophecy and fulfillment. This realization is not loud or dramatic. It is soft, like dawn breaking gently over a still landscape, filling the horizon with the calm certainty of light. One can almost hear the echo of Enoch's awe, the reverent silence of a man who glimpsed the eternal and understood that it had a name, a face, a presence walking among creation. The serenity of this revelation extends into the very rhythm of time. Past, present, and future are enfolded in the calm of God's plan. Every act of the righteous, every hidden prayer, every act of mercy or endurance finds its place in the eternal memory. Nothing is lost, nothing forgotten. The fullness of the Messiah's role encompasses all creation, reconciling heaven and earth, angels and humanity, light and darkness. In this gentle culmination, one senses that the universe itself exhales, that creation rests in the peace for which it was made, a peace that will never fade. Enoch's visions also invite reflection on the personal experience of the faithful. To read or hear these prophecies is to enter a space of quiet assurance where the tumult of earthly life falls away. The promises of the Messiah are not abstract concepts but intimate truths. Protection for the humble, recognition for the faithful, comfort for the weary. Even the imagery of rivers, gardens, and light serves to calm the soul, allowing it to trust in the fulfillment of God's plan. The connection between prophecy and reality is not merely intellectual but experiential, like feeling the warmth of a sun that has risen long before yet touches every life in turn. The sense of eternity in these prophecies is soft yet profound. The Son of Man's reign, the gathering of the righteous, the restoration of creation, all speak to a timeless order that surpasses human comprehension. One can imagine sitting quietly in the glow of such visions, heart slowed by the gentle certainty of justice and mercy, mind soothed by the rhythm of divine purpose. Even the trials of the past, the shadows of rebellion, the moments of sorrow are embraced within this calm panorama, transformed into a part of the greater story that reaches its fulfillment in the Messiah. Enoch's prophecies, when viewed as a whole, are like a lullaby retched across centuries, each verse carrying the listener closer to the understanding of God's plan. The Messiah, revealed in fullness, becomes the point of rest for creation. The faithful find in him their home, the cosmos finds in him its harmony, and history finds in him its meaning. Every vision, every title, every act described by Enoch converges into a soft, unshakable truth. The promise of eternal peace through the Son of Man is not distant or uncertain, but present and accessible, awaiting recognition and reception. The final reflection is one of serene fulfillment. Enoch's prophecies are no longer fragments of mystery, but a complete and gentle revelation of the Messiah's work, presence, and authority. The imagery of light, gardens, rivers, and heavenly courts coalesces into a universe resting in order, a cosmos breathing quietly under the calm sovereignty of Christ. It is a revelation that invites one to close the eyes, to feel the quiet of eternity, and to trust in the steady, gentle unfolding of divine purpose. Here, in the fullness of prophecy, the soul can find rest, the heart can feel assurance, and the mind can drift into the peace that surpasses understanding, knowing that all has been fulfilled in the gentle, enduring light of the Messiah.